management positions and, position themselves for when the owners retire to maybe even take over the business. Being an NCMP is going to be very helpful to them, because one of the main things it does is teach them how to see the microbial contamination picture from a bigger perspective.
Right. We've talked a lot about, as I use the term, upper level type of training, and we've talked a bit about what's involved, but what makes this class really special? Is there like something you could really zoom in on to point that out?
Oh, I think the thing from my perspective, and having, been the primary instructor for this for, 20 years, the thing that the students all talk about afterwards are two things. One, it's a combination of learning and learning together. So there's a big emphasis on case study, and we get the students in the class, whether they're even participating online or live in the classroom. We get people working through these different case study scenarios, and honestly, at the end of the class, we hear every class where people say, and quite bluntly, what we learned from you, Michael, and the slides and everything was interesting, but what really made a difference in terms of this class resonating and us feeling more confident to go out and deal with some of these projects was working it through the case studies, because they're not simple. If the people don't know how to set up a containment and where they're supposed to put their negative air machines and stuff by the time they get into this class, they probably shouldn't be in this class. But we're talking about how do they integrate this into much more complex projects. And like I said, they really enjoy the case study. The other thing that makes the class special or unique or different is that it doesn't just end with a class. And I know this can be scary for people. They hear that there's a post-class requirement, but that is, if you're going to be considered a professional in the industry, you have to demonstrate that somehow. And so we do have a post-class requirement. We call it a capstone, but there's a lot of different projects that people can take on as part of that class afterwards to show that they're actually the upper level in the industry.
Okay, you can't get away that easy with just saying post-class requirements. You got to give us a little bit more about that. What's really involved with this, and how does it enhance what was taught in the class?
Well, again, if you're going to be a professional in the industry, then you need to have a profile in the industry, right? You need to be recognized as somebody who's got this expertise. And there's certainly a situation where you can point to the certificate on the wall and say, see, that makes me a professional. But what we find out is that the people who are looked at by their peers as professionals have taken another step. They've taken the information that they know about the industry and they've translated it into something that's tangible. So we're very open in terms of what these capstone projects can be. We've had people come through the class and understand, we're way behind internally on some of the safety and health programs, or our respirator protection program, or we don't have good marketing materials now that we understand this in a little bit better way for our customers, or we don't even know we haven't been doing a good job putting ourselves out in the industry. So all of those things, we've had capstones in the past from some of the professionals where they do their own, marketing brochures or safety and health programs. We've had people actually do experiments. They come into class and they've kind of had what I call a burning question. And this one gentleman just was totally fixated on the whole idea of the 10 square foot rule, which came from the New York City guidelines. And he was very much reflecting my attitude, saying, well, if it's 9.5 feet, does that make it like less dangerous than if it's 10.5 feet? What if it's 1 inch, right? And so, he actually did an experiment. He set up a containment area and did removal of less than 10 square feet. It actually turned out to be about 6 square feet of mold contaminated material under controlled conditions, and then did a lot of sampling while he was doing that to show what the impact was. And it, you know what, if you don't use your standard remediation techniques like negative pressure and HEPA vacuums, and the New York City guidelines say that you can just, take a piece of drywall and cut it out, right? And he pretty much proved that to be false. Now that was I don't want to say way more, but that was on the kind of the top end of what somebody might do for a capstone project. A lot of them will actually just take their information and dig into one subset of the microbial industry, and then even write it up for an article for some of the technical journals or for the trade journals and stuff. And regardless of what they decide to do, two things are important in terms of the post class requirement. One is that we work really hard in the class so that by the time everybody leaves, they know what they're doing. And then if they already know what they're doing, we can also help them in class provide the resources and the guidance and the encouragement they need to finish that up after class, so that they do class, they do their test, but more importantly, this capstone project is what starts to set them apart. If it is an experiment or it is a document that gets translated into a journal article or something like that, it also raises their profile and helps them to be recognized as a professional, not just by normie and those of us that are kind of in the know, if you will, but all of a sudden it starts to bring them some recognition from their peers in the rest of the industry. So,
what I'm hearing from you talk about this, it sounds like, well, let's look at the government as an example. A lot of the government entities, they have to put a magical line, of what level is good, what level is bad. It's not a floating thing like radon, 4 picocuries per liter. 3.99999 is okay, but 4 is bad. Same thing with the 10 square foot rule. To me, it sounds more like this class is a collaborative environment from all the people with all their experience being there.
Well, it's a collaborative class run by a dictator, but
yes.
I mean, it is, there's structure to it. You have to be careful with that. And again, I think that's one of the reasons that you see individuals like myself and Doug being the primary instructors on that class, is because, we have to have the experience in the industry, but also as instructors to know how far to let that run and then when to rein that back in. So, yeah, I would say it is a very collaborative experience, but it's under guidance of the instructors.
So let me speak to that for a second, if I could, Lance, because I think this is really fascinating, and maybe this is kind of down into the weeds. Hopefully it won't be. But one of the things that we know about training, and this is why I love so much being able to work with Michael, because there are not a lot of trainers that understand this. There's a very big difference between teaching high school students and teaching adults. And part of the difference is that high school students don't know anything. Sorry, high school students, but they just don't know anything. And so they're sitting there listening to someone lecture to them, and they're hopefully listening and learning something that they don't know anything about. With adult learners, what you've got is you've got guys that are in that classroom who need to contribute and want to contribute and should contribute to the discussion because of the experiences that they've had that the trainer maybe hasn't had. So having someone at the head of the class like a Michael, who knows the industry inside out, has got a tremendous amount of experience, but is still delicate enough to respect and honor the input that those students are going to have, makes the class, and as a term you said, kind of collaborative, but as he said, with a dictator. But that's how that happens. There are not a lot of teachers that can do that.
Well, and I want to follow up on that, Doug, and I say this in all humility. you know, when I'm teaching that class, I learned so much. And one of the first admissions that I make to the students is that I am not a remediator. All right. I don't go out and tear buildings apart on a daily basis. And quite honestly, other than being out there, for the post remediation or doing sampling or, sometimes getting out over the course of, multiple decades and actually getting my hands dirty just for the practice of it. I'm not a remediator. And so,
Right.
and I never have been. I haven't been a contractor. I'm a consultant. I'm a trainer. I'm, a recognized professional. I'm an educator in the industry. But I have to tip my hat to the people who go out and do this every day. And by the time they get into this class, we generally, as you say, Doug, we have individuals that have a lot of experience and with the right coaching are willing to share what they know, so it does become collaborative. And sometimes it takes a half a day for people to warm up and understand that, we've got, I'm sorry, this is going to sound woke and horrible. It's a safe space for them to, open up and share their ideas and stuff. But I was using that term well before it was fashionable.
Well, it sounds like it's a extremely packed 3 days, and I guess that's one of the reasons that you have the post-class type of work. But it doesn't though sound to me like it's drinking from a fire hose. A lot of these classes where they pack so much information in. So, Doug, I know you've talked about that kind of stuff in a long time, and you've seen Michael teach this class several times. The flow rate, I guess, would be the best way to describe that. Comfortable?
Yeah, I think that's that delicate balance that I was talking about, as somebody who really knows what they're doing from a training standpoint, being able to give that information out in a way that it can be absorbed, but then start to see when the eyes are glazing over and take a break, and sometimes that just takes experience, just teaching experience and understanding how the classroom works. It is a lot of information. One of the things that we've really tried to do is to make sure that they have in their hands all the slides that we've discussed. They can take copious notes, obviously for an exam that would follow, the certified proctored exam that would follow. But I think the idea is that being able to gauge the climate of the class, that's just something that, as I said, not a lot of people are able to do. But that's why one of the reasons I'm so happy that we've got Michael on board, because I think we have several trainers like that, and they're not easy to find.
Well, thank you for the compliment. What I will say is that it's real work to teach that class too. I mean, to be an active listener, it takes as much energy as to be an active speaker. And each class is different, more so than the mold technician class or even the sensitized individual classes that I teach. The NCMP class is different because I have, as a lead instructor, I have a little bit more tendency to let some of that collaborative discussion run and then have figured out how to bring it back, or how to, if I have to trim a little bit from some of the, subject matter that we're going to talk about. Like you said, they have all the slides there so that they're not necessarily losing any of the critical information, but we may, speed up going through some of that in class in order to give more time for the discussion, depending on where the discussion's going. Or sometimes, depending on who's in the class and the whole dynamics of it, or just toward the end of the class, a lot of times they're just tired. And so, a lot of times it reverts back toward the last afternoon of the class where I do a little bit more of the lecture style presentation than throughout the rest of it, just because if they've really been at it kind of hammer and tongs for 2.5 days, it can be wearing on the students as well.
Doug, as executive director of Normie, how do you see the NPMC course really, or CMP, affecting the Normie structure? And what does it actually bring to us?
Well, I think this is a good time for me to talk about the Normie Pro designation, which I think is so significant. And that Normie Pro designation, which, oh, by the way, no one has yet, which not even Lance nor Doug nor Michael has this designation yet, was actually born. The Normie Pro designation was really born out of a need, as many good ideas are, to provide to the public a professional who could handle virtually any kind of issue, any kind of problem that they might face. And it was born out of this need when you and I, Lance, got a call from BP Oil, and they said, we need somebody to go offshore and do an assessment on one of our deep water oil rigs. And we both looked at each other and went, do we really have a Normie member who's qualified to do this? Somebody who has the safety training, someone who has the security clearances, there's somebody who has the experience in the background. Because when you get out on an oil rig, you know, deep water oil rig, there's only one way out and one way back, and it's a helicopter. And there's not a lot of discussion or being able to, you know, run to Lowe's and get something. So we decided, well, this is something that we should do. And so we did that. But out of that was born this idea of how do we get our guys to a master level? I think everybody's very familiar with what that terminology is. ISCRC talks about that, and others. How do we get our guys to the level where they can handle even those kinds of jobs? And so our dream was, and our goal was, which is now coming to fruition, was to have enough advanced training where we could have the designation Normie Pro, and we could give that to individual in the Normie membership who had the training on sensitized individuals, regular CMA, CMR, understood how to deal with formaldehyde, understood building sciences enough to be able to deal with air infiltration issues, knows what a blower door test is, knows how to spell a manual J, you know, has had the advanced microbial professional classes. How do we put all of that together and say, this guy, this lady, we're going to give this designation to Normie Pro? And then when we get those kinds of calls, that's the person that we can send on that kind of project. So the Normie Pro designation, which again, I say nobody has, we're still working on that. We're hoping that by the end of the year, with the help of the President's Council, we'll have some very specific criteria so that folks can get there and get that designation. And we have some now that I think we could get pretty close, may already be there, to be able to have that designation. That's where Normie is headed. We're going to set the standard for the highest level of professional training that's in the market today. And I frankly just don't believe anybody else has been doing that like we intend to. And with Michael's help, with the President's Council help, I think we're going to create something that this industry has needed for a long time.
And again, I just love jumping in on what Doug lays out as the foundation here. Truly, this NCMP class, one of the main ideas behind it is to help people see microbial contamination from a much broader perspective. And that was some of the stuff that you were talking about, Doug. You know, there's great pieces of equipment and there's good things that we can steal, if you will, from the radon industry, like you know, Lance had referred to earlier. And you know, there's things on the asbestos side, there's things in the safety arena, there's things from all these different industries, general indoor air quality. And the more we can get people to think about it in terms of concepts and how these similar concepts can be applied to a project, but when we're faced with a potential problem, we don't have to be restricted to trying to find a mold piece of equipment or something, right? We can see it from a bigger perspective and reach out and realize that, hey, there's things from the indoor air quality arena that we may want to put in here. A great example, just if I can be a little bit, suck up just a little bit, is the ionizer for the the tail of the negative air machine that's available, the PRVK, right? Um, that's not really a mold remediation piece of equipment, or that's not an idea that really came from the mold remediation arena. But it's an idea that fits the mold remediation arena really well as asbestos abatement and lead and just air cleansing, air washing when you're doing whole house cleaning. It's a technology that we're bringing over from somewhere else, and people need to understand a little bit about how that interacts and can be used in so many different arenas.
So I'll give you one, if I can, Lance, I'll give you one insight into some of the things that are going to be different in this particular class and some of the other classes that we're doing. In fact, at the new CMA CMR class that we're going to teach next week, we're going to introduce the concept of air washing, low pressure air washing, which is something we've never done in our training before, but it's brand new, 2023 for us. It's not new to Michael. Michael knew what it was. In fact, he helped me helped me understand how we could fit it into our training program. But I think the point that I'm making is that our classes hopefully will stay up with the industry, and in some cases maybe stay ahead of the industry. And that's why they're constantly changing. You come to a CMA CMR class that we do today, it's not the same class that we did before COVID. It's just not.
And the NCMP class that we're going to do next is going to be different than the one that we did before.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would share there, Doug, and building on that, is that the only way we stay at and above where the industry is to rely on the people that are working in it every day.
That's right. That's right.
And tease out of them I'll be blunt with you. I'm thinking about it now over the course of the last 2 decades. Basically, every concept that's in this NCMP course, I have taken from, with their permission and with their discussion in class. But basically, I've taken from experts in the industry that are doing it every day.
Yeah.
And that to me is the best knowledge to share. Is not, and again, I have gone through lots of levels of academic training, but there's a difference between information that's coming at you from an academic standpoint and information that's coming at you from things that have worked and really made a difference in the real world. So,
Michael, that's so important on so many levels. I mean, we teach in our classes about, for people that are becoming supervisors, to ask the people doing the work that have the working knowledge, how to improve their conditions, improve the technologies, give them what they need. And that's exactly what it sounds like you're talking about.
Well, the other thing I would add to that, Lance, is that it's important for the professionals to look and listen and learn. As I said, the more advanced I get and the more little buttons and designations and all the stuff I have, quite honestly, the humbler I'm getting, because I just am figuring out how much I don't know in all these different areas that I probably should know to pull together. And I'm honored, quite honestly, it truly is. I think about it, I'm honored to be an instructor in this class, because I'm sharing ideas. And, you may have heard the term, I'm sure a lot of people have heard this term, standing on the shoulders of giants. And the crazy thing about that is that a lot of the giants whose shoulders we're standing on for this class are peoples whose names are not necessarily household names or even really well known in the industry, quite honestly. They're just individuals who go to work every day, do a really good job, and are creative as how they do it, and we're kind enough to share some of that in that collaborative portion of the class that then we can build on and use for the next one.
I knew the word collaborative was going to come back in there someplace.
Well, I had to for your benefit, Lance.
Thank you. Anything else about the class either of you would want to say?
Well, yes, I'll just say that I think this class, whenever it happens, we're looking at dates coming up in the next couple of months. But whenever this class actually happens, I'm really highly encouraged by the guys that have been taking our CMA CMR class. It's not too soon to get into this class, even whether you have a little bit of experience or a lot of experience. I think if you've been trained by Normie and you have that basic foundation CMA CMR class, this would be a very, very good class for you to take.
I want to add something completely different, and that is that our experience in this class is that it's challenging. It's a fair amount of work and everything. That shouldn't necessarily scare people who want to be professionals. But probably the biggest thing is it's fun. And the people that come through this class, talk to me even years and decades later about the relationships that they built in that class and their team when they were on their, because we divide them up and then put them in different teams at different points in time for the case study and stuff, and how they got to know some of the other people in their class. And a lot of those, believe it or not, in 3 days become friendships and professional relationships that they hang on to for years and decades. And just, it's one of those things where if you're a professional in the industry and you start to see yourself as a professional in the industry, you want to hang around other professionals in the industry. You have that desire to want to learn from them and share with them. And so we see this, and we see it happen in a very fun way in the class. So the fun factor is actually quite high, as compared to some of the other ones like the CMA, and not that that's not a fun class, but there's so much basic information that's getting across in some of these other classes that you don't quite have the same ability to allow the students in class to express themselves. And the collaborative nature and the case study nature of portions of this class allows some of those personalities to come out. And basically it just usually turns it into a pretty fun class.
I think listening to the two of you, and we've talked for probably close to 40 minutes already, the way I would just sum up what I've heard is 2 words: upper level.
Yep.
I think that does it. That says it all. Gentlemen, anything else? I think we've covered quite a bit of information here tonight.
Well, I'm just really appreciative of having the opportunity to chat with you and with Doug all at the same time and everything. And I would encourage anybody who's even, remotely curious to dig into it. And they can certainly call Normie and talk to Doug about it. They can, get the referral. They can chat with me about it. I'll be happy to spend more time explaining it. But it's a great class. I'm looking forward to having the next crop of people come through it.
And I'll just tell you that I'm excited to say that we've updated our website at training.normie.org to incorporate information about this class, the NCMP. Now, one of the things that's kind of unique about what we're doing these days is that this is going to be a trademarked designation, which means it's based on Normie training, and the NCMP cannot be used by anybody unless they've been trained by us. And so I think that's an additional level of credibility that you're going to get in the marketplace if you're in the industry that you'll not get anywhere else. And I'm just grateful in a very big way to Michael and what he's been able to bring to the team. And I think he's filled a void, and I'm excited about where we're headed with this whole advanced training program. So thank you, Michael, and thank you for being here, especially for this interview today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, both of you guys, and have a blessed afternoon, evening.
Michael Pinto, CEO of Wonder Makers, and Douglas Hoffman, the Chief Executive Officer from Normie. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, everybody, we are here with a special guest today at the Experience Trade Show, David DeGroff, and we've been dealing with, and I say dealing in a very calm way, with you for several years now. Actually, you've been a sponsor at some of our training classes, and we've dealt with you with other stuff down in Florida, so we really appreciate that. But you have a very special, I want to call it, service at Always On Call for this industry. Let's tell everybody about it.
Basically, I have a restoration specific labor source. And contrary to everybody else out there who is a labor provider that saw opportunity in our industry, and they do roll call. There's plenty of negative names out there that exist for those types of companies, rent-a-bums, rent-a-drunks. And I saw an opportunity and able to provide something a little bit different for the industry. I've been in the industry since 2004. I ran a build back company. I ran a DR company to expansion and then into sale. And I actually only ended up doing labor and saw that it was a good opportunity and we capitalized on that. My labor guys, it's not a roll call to see who's the most sober in the morning and they get to go to work. They're my employees year round and they do restoration every day of the week. They weren't cleaning a Walmart parking lot yesterday. They were doing containments, right? They're doing micro cleans.
And I speak David, so I can translate what he just said. Actually, you were a little bit low, so hopefully they heard you.
Sorry.
But I think it really comes down to you get somebody in the restoration industry that comes across a very large job, and they're not going to have 100, 200, people on their payroll. They need people that know what to do in the industry, and they call you.
That's right. We can help increase the size of your company, allow you to take on any project, no matter the size. But we also offer an alternate option where if you're a smaller company and you just get a stack of jobs going on, we're able to help provide relief for that type of situation as well. I mean, realistically, you don't need anybody on your staff that isn't a future part of your company. We're able to come in and fill the gaps in your schedule. If you had several mold jobs, you could stack them all up together and bring us in and we can help you knock them out. And then you don't have to worry about paying them guys 40 hours next week.
Do you have supervisors on your crews?
Yes, we do.
So you provide supervision also. Now, are they licensed to do the work? Like in Florida, I know you need licensing, or do they still work under the company's license?
Yeah, they some of the people are certified that we have. We're working on increasing that presence right now. It's kind of a new demand and a new supply for us. Typically, we've always just done general labor and worked very hard to be able to clear that bar. I'm a under promise, over deliver type of guy. So now we've been looking at adding the new dimensions and being able to offer supervision as well. I know that's a much needed resource in the industry as well.
Well, I know you're located in Florida, but you do cover other parts of the country, don't you?
Well, we started the company in 2016 in Orlando, and then we've expanded from there. We're able to respond nationwide with as little as 4 people. And we also have local response out of 8 cities. It's Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Charlotte, and the 4 major cities in Texas.
So what do you do as far as you need to mobilize 100 people to head to Texas? Do you guys handle logistics of transport and accommodations, or how's that work?
Yeah, I mean, typically we handle the transportation, but at the end of the day, I'm trying to be a good business partner, and we all want to just help each other reach success and profitability, right, and get on to the next job. So it really comes down to the relationship. When the specific situation, do you need me to handle lodging? Do you need me to handle transportation? How can I best assist your situation to make it as seamless and stressless for you as possible? And we work hard to fill in all those gaps to take whatever we need to off your plate.
Okay. Well, it brings me to the most important question. And I know we've done interviews in the past, but anytime somebody sees an interview I've done with you or just sees us talking, they always ask me 9-volt or AA for the suit.
It's a lot larger battery than that, bud.
What powers this thing?
It's my energy, right?
It's your energy.
No caffeine.
What's the deal with the orange? And now the glasses, that's a new one.
Hey, you got to step it up. Everybody's expecting there's something more each time out. Very simply put, the company colors are orange and black, and I'm a little bit outside the box when it comes to marketing. And so I conceptualized this idea on the fly of maybe an orange suit would draw a few more eyes, and it certainly has done that.
I heard rumors about a Lamborghini someplace out there.
I don't know. They're unconfirmed at this point in time.
Oh, okay.
I don't know one. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. But orange?
An orange Lamborghini? Well, it'd have to be a marketing expense and it'd have to tie into the suit. So a little bit of work to go before we're able to roll out that idea, but we're going to see what we can do.
Well, I'm waiting to see that one. Just to have you pull up at one of these shows, and something like that, I think that speaks volumes.
What kind of volumes would it speak?
I don't know.
We're not fitting very much labor in the back of it.
That's true. Are you going to be at the experience in the fall?
Well, as everybody knows, that one is in the fall and at the beginning of September. So that's kind of the hot zone for us for hurricane wise. Assuming that there's not going to be any hurricane at that point in time, which is not a safe assumption, I will certainly be there to the best of my ability. So, but we'd all rather be working at that point in time too. But the experience is a great
Understood.
show, and I love to be in there in Vegas and turn out for these guys. Great people, great event.
I also heard a rumor that you were thinking about our training coming up in Mexico in a week. Don't know if you were able to make that one work or not.
I'm a little bit sad at this point in time. I found out about it too late, and due to the restricted time frame and so much to move, that I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. But I'm sad. I'm still going to put the effort into it, and if not, then you can certainly keep me on the agenda for next year. I've been to a lot of special Normie events, and I appreciate and love them all. I've always appreciated the way Normie's had not only my back, but definitely supports the industry across. It's a huge asset and a huge addition to everything that we all believe in.
So it has nothing to do with the orange suit, not or being on the no-fly list.
No, if I wouldn't be able to be here if it were that case.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know how it works internationally.
Yeah,
I have to, pop the fuse or something.
pinata if you're down in Mexico. Anyways, I appreciate you spending time. And there's a lot of things going on here. We're coming up on a little over an hour to go in the show yet today. So
Yeah.
enjoy. I appreciate
Thank you very
it.
much for all your time, Lance.
You take care.
Thank you, Normie. Thank you, Experience. Have a good day, guys.
Everybody, we are back again in Chattanooga at the Experience Trade Show, and I have one of our Normie members with us, Barry Menken, and he's been around for quite some time, and he's always interesting to talk to, and he has some definite insights into this industry. So, Barry, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. We try to get to these, a couple times a year and obviously other organizations as well, and just to stay connected to the industry so we can be on top of our game.
Well, one of the things, and I do appreciate that, I want to mention is that you guys were late this morning and missed my presentation. and I was told to point that out.
Yes. Well, my hope was that I would be able to get a copy of it later so that I could digest it properly and really get a deeper hold of it.
This is a snooze you lose event, so sorry about that. So what brings you here? This is a ride for you guys, isn't it?
A little bit of a ride, not too bad. We're actually out of Nashville, Tennessee. So, about 2.5 hours for us to come down. And basically, this event, I think, is really beneficial just because there's so many different players here that crosses different industries, but we're all trying to get things clean at the end of the day. So that whole joke in the industry is what is clean? Well, there's several different people here trying to clean from different angles, from different, sects of that business or different industries.
Yeah.
And so to be connected to them, I think, and to understand their approaches and the products and processes. And it's really, I think, helpful for everybody to be able to play together, if you will.
And it's funny because you mentioned about getting things clean, and we've started using different terminology that you can't really get something clean because what is clean? Well, we can make it cleaner. We can show where you started. We can show at the end how much better it is, cleaner, healthier, safer. And
Yeah,
and that seems to be a theme traveling through this whole thing.
absolutely. Yeah. And, today we can see things that we couldn't see before. We can see past 0.1 microns, right? So we have different things that we can say, you know what, we can do better. And, so much of the industry standards, I think, address the minimums. And, nobody should be bragging about getting a D-, like if you're just doing what code says. If you're in like the building industry, it's like, well, it passes code. Well, that doesn't make a healthy house, and in our industry, it's like, let's not do the minimum. Let's find out how good we can be. And the technology now can help us do that.
Yeah, it's funny. We use more or less a joke when we talk about things with people doing testing and stuff. And to your point, a doctor that graduates med school last in his class, lowest possible score, he's still called doctor.
Right.
But being proud of that, yes, you're a doctor. Congratulations. I'm glad you did it. But then again, look at the people that really scored way up top. They're really engaged in the industry. They're there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And that's what this kind of show is about.
Yeah, I would say when I come to these shows, the people that come here, especially not necessarily even the vendors, but the people that are coming, they're hungry. And if you care, you're going to show up. And those are the people that want to be excellent at what they do. and learn from you guys, right?
Yeah.
So prime example. And to me, I've grown exponentially through Normie and just being connected to all the different organizations the best way that I can and help take the right things out of each one and try to find out what works for my business model. And it's been very helpful. So very
Well,
thankful.
I give you a moment for a shameless plug. Who's the company?
So my company's name is Four Corners Environmental, the number 4. And I've got 3 companies. So basically, I have a home inspection business still. So what we try to do is our take on how we deal with the environmental side of the business. We come from a water end from the outside in. So I'm looking at the building science, not just from the inside out kind of thing. I want to look at the grading. I'm going to look at the gutters. I'm going to look at foundational issues. Then we get into HVAC issues. We dive into all of that. And we see holistically, how's this house operating? What's the moisture? How's that reacting? And how are all these systems working together? And then we're just measuring food and water at the end of the day. You know, mold needs the same things that we do to grow. We're made out of the same stuff, you know, so we're just trying to help people manage the food and the water well, especially in a humid climate like we have, where we have high relative humidity all the time.
So listening to you, how do I get you to raise your level of dedication to this industry? Because it sounds like you're in hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I mean, I was a contractor for a long time. I've worked for different companies as I was younger, and I've worked with my hands my whole life, you know. So once I got into the inspection side after I sold that company, everything just kind of hurt. So I mean, I couldn't physically do it anymore. So, but I had all the knowledge base, and then I wanted to fill in the holes that I didn't know. And I've just been so hungry ever since then, because the more you know you can help, and the more viable you can be in your industry to have the answers for people that need healthy homes. And so Normie's been, again, a huge part of that process for me, and a practical approach for a lot of my clients. So,
Well, and that's the whole idea. It's to keep it practical, to keep it doable, not make it so complicated and
Right.
difficult and expensive that people can't afford to have the help that they need. So
exactly. And, you know, so many companies just come in and they just want to spout out how much they know and impress people, you know, by however many letters that they have behind their name. And the letters are important. You have to know what you're talking about, but so much of this is how you communicate to your clients, not just the what, so that they can actually utilize the knowledge and start to apply those things to their home and have solutions.
So, how many of these experience shows have you been at?
This is my 3rd or 4th one, I think. So
Okay.
yeah, this particular show.
Have you been to the Las Vegas?
Yeah,
version?
that's the one I was at last year. Or was it? Yeah, last year.
That is their bigger show of the year. This is kind of like their warm-up show they do in the spring.
Right.
And then in the fall, they do the big show in Vegas. So
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
Me too. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's usually a good time out there and exciting, big, too much walking now.
Yeah, it's good for us because we usually eat a little bit too much while we're out here. So
That is true.
all the rich
yeah.
foods and everything. So, but the walking's good. So
All right. Well, I appreciate you stopping by. I know you're here with a few other people. You're
Yeah.
wandering and looking at everything. So
yeah, we're
enjoy.
excited.
I appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
by.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for stopping.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Balzano, publisher of R&R, as well as the Experience Events. Welcome to Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience. This is episode 12, and good friend today. I say this every week, but I like this guy a lot. I met him about a year ago, and we bonded, and I'm happy he's such a big part of the experience. He's a teacher, a leader, a podcaster, an IAQ expert, a former policeman. I may have tipped it up right there who it is. A speaker, exhibitor. And he is currently and formerly was an EMT. We'll talk about all of that. Longtime friend of the experience. Please welcome from Normie, Mr. Lance Eisen. Welcome, Lance.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, we have a lot going on in both our companies right now and fun. But I want to first off just talk about. I mean, this whole series was meant to really kind of look at the people who've made a big difference to the experience. And you and Doug and everybody at Normie are certainly one of them. Are you a New Jersey native by any chance?
Yes.
So you remain in New Jersey, is that correct?
Yes, I have. Well, my family is here, so it's kind of hard to move away from kids and grandkids.
They frown on that. I know. I know that my wife and I came down to Florida a while ago, and I think that the grandkids is the thing that keeps people from snowbirding. The kids are one thing, but once those grandkids come around, now I'm not going anywhere, and I get it. So good for you.
Yeah, it just makes it easier and it's more sense. If they move away, well, then all bets are off. But
Exactly. So, well, I tell you, we met, like I said, last year, and you've got a great background, one that I think is wonderful for this. You started in, well, and maybe you could talk about this, Love. There's two things I want to talk about service-wise in general. People know you were a policeman. A lot of people know you were a policeman as sergeant, but I didn't know you were an EMT. How long did you do that for?
Since 1975.
And you're still registered, correct?
Yeah, still involved with the volunteer organization.
What do you think? What drew you to that originally, starting out? So this is what I want to do.
You know what? As a kid, I had watched the ambulance come to my house quite a few times. My grandmother lived with us. I saw them helping people, and it just became kind of the norm, and it got my interest.
That's amazing. My grandma stayed with me till she passed away when she was 98. So I learned a lot of Italian like that. But you did that, and then you went right into being a police. Now that was 1975. You said you still do it, but in 1979 you decided to join the police force. Was it just the next logical step in your head, or no?
It was kind of strange. I mean, if you put yourself in the mindset of a 19-year-old, I was an EMT already. I was involved with emergency services. I was going to Rutgers University in a pre-medical program.
Mm.
And the opportunity came up where somebody said, "Hey, you want to drive a police car and carry a gun?" I was 19 years old.
Sure.
Sure. And, I had taken some tests. I got hired, and I started a career that, they talk about pensions and stuff. And at 19, 20 years old, you get pension. What's that all about? And that was a blur. That's gone. So
Yeah, for sure. I remember when they started talking about 401ks and people like, what is that? Some kind of football signal? I don't know what that means. And now you look back and like, you're so stupid. Why don't you just start?
The pension is there, which is the reason I stayed. It's just, 25 years just blurred by.
Ah, yes.
And I'll tell you what, that makes it even scarier. I retired almost 20 years ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So
From law enforcement.
You achieved your rank was sergeant at the end, correct?
Correct.
I can see that. I can see you being the boss, being the sergeant of a staff. But
it was convenient. It worked.
A lot of people, this is the 12th episode of this, and it's funny you said the magic words already, and that you started that because you wanted to help people. And I could, I could see a lot of pre-med. We've had people that want to be attorneys and this and that, and say, no, you know what? I want to do something else. And especially then that led into our industry. I mean, so you retired from the police force, and what moved you to kind of get involved in the restoration industry?
My story is very similar to the people that we deal with that have problems. 2 years before I retired from the police department, I wound up with pneumonia 4 times. And I kept going to doctors, specialists that, take these antibiotics, take more medication. Wasn't fixing the problem. I kept getting pneumonia. I started doing some research, and I took some training online about my living conditions, and I found my problem. It was in my air conditioning system.
I'm not smiling because that's great news. Go ahead. I mean, I can see where you're going with this. Go on.
I fixed it. And, I started telling people, this is what I did. Their answer to me was, come check my house.
Mm-hmm.
That became a full-time business when I retired.
No kidding.
Yeah, I actually had to hire 4 inspectors to work with me because it was so busy. And there was radio advertising and a lot of other things involved with that, but it became an industry business for me. And that's how I got into it. And 2 years after that, I wound up with the Normie organization.
And you accidentally started a business. I love that. And the pneumonia problems went away when you got better air, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
That's
the pneumonia went away. It was caused by a fungal infection, fungal pneumonia. And it was because of the conditions of my indoor environment, which set the stage for everything else.
Gotcha. And then you went to the right place because Normie is doing so many great things with IAQ, and IAQ radio and everything else. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But I remember we talked about this offline. And I talked to Jeff Jones, Microbial Warrior, about this too, specifically about COVID. He likes to talk about, and we found out it wasn't touching things or whatnot. It was everything, all the particles going through the air. And hopefully, if we have another chance at this, I'm preaching to the choir, I know. Hopefully, we won't have another chance at this. We probably will. And sadly, we'll do a better job of fighting that next time, right?
Oh, absolutely. COVID was kind of a game changer for this industry. I've been in it since 2004, with Normie since 2006. And we have been talking about indoor air quality. We've been talking about surface contact, the things you breathe. And people are like, yeah, okay, no big deal. And then COVID hits, and everybody decides that, hey, breathing is a thing, it's important. And it changed the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and what I was going to mention earlier was that you said something when we first started about you want to help people. So you became an EMT and this and that. Everybody that does this show, that's what they say. And I think that really is a nice, you're sheepishly to accept this. We already tried once off the air, but you're a helper. You're a service-oriented people person, and you want to go, and I could see you doing those two things, then jumping into the restoration industry like you did. And I'm not surprised at all. It's a career of service, actually. And again, that's a statement, not really a question, but that's the way I see it.
Well, yesterday, actually, I had a conversation with the manager of a large gym franchise. And we were talking about different things that could help his business out.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept saying, well, what's in it for you? What's in it for you? I said, nothing. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not asking you to buy anything. I don't want you to spend any money. Just here's a suggestion. And he didn't know how to take that. He's so used to people trying to sell them something or take advantage of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what we do. Doug has a tagline that we use all the time. It's not about getting a license, it's about developing a successful business.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we teach. And, we don't do it for what we're getting out of it. We're helping people. Our benefit is helping people, and then the good things come from that.
That is the textbook. I've heard the phrase content marketing, but that's basically what that is, a new form of marketing about. Yeah, we're gonna help the audience. We're gonna send a case study, do this and that. Eventually, we sell this widget too, and maybe you might want to think about buying it. But that's like an afterthought. And after you gain their trust, as Normie does, then the money just comes in because you're quality and you've earned their trust. You're not just overtly asking for it, right? And I think that's great. That's the way all businesses should run these days. Some don't have the luxury, but
you mentioned the police department earlier, and a lot of what I learned from that was dealing with people, reading an audience.
Yeah.
And it's a skill that every one of us in the service industry needs. You need to know who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And very often, for me, it's easier to put myself in the place of the person I'm dealing with. And that's how I can judge how I have to deal with this individual for their needs. I know personally that if somebody comes to my house and is very pushy and they're going to sell me something, and I don't want to deal with them, I'm immediately turned off to that. It's very hard to sometimes explain to individuals in this industry that you might be selling a service, you might be selling a product. You really need to sell yourself first. Once the customer is comfortable with you, then you have a relationship, and it's much easier to work with.
Yeah. They trust you, and they have that mutual trust that you're really looking out for their best interest. I couldn't agree more, Lance. And you brought that and a lot more to Normie. Now, we've been talking a lot over the last year. Normie TV is exploding. Normie Connect. I mean, what do you want to talk about as far as so much has changed in the last 12 months or 18 months with Normie?
We actually started a little bit sooner than that, but it really went mainstream with what we're doing. Like you said, within the last 2 years. We've been running Normie TV since 2017, 2018. So, but like everything else, it's a new concept, and it takes a while to get some traction and move. Well, from watching the industry and watching what happened with COVID, we started to see that people like to get media in all different flavors, all different ways of getting it. from Facebook to Instagram to Reddit to regular other social media platforms, ones that are popping up almost daily.
Yeah.
So to me, it made sense to, and here we come with the name Normie connect with the audience on their terms.
Mhm.
You know, we can't say, hey, if you want to watch us, go to YouTube. And that's your option. You know, some people may not want to go to YouTube, may confuse them. They may go to Instagram and want to watch, or Facebook or LinkedIn. So we broadcast our TV channel across all of those platforms at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're broadcasting, I believe it's on 7 or 8 platforms. When we do other live broadcasts like specialized trainings, we'll go across, I think it's up to 15 platforms. At the same time, simulcast it. And people can react with us and chat and everything else at the same time. Well, we found that a lot of people like that, but people work. Can you believe that? They have to travel to and from work.
I hate that.
You can't
Hard.
watch video performances, video on demand while you're driving. So we looked into doing radio. We're now broadcasting simulcast broadcasting over 6 radio platforms. So people have their favorites there too. You know, whatever you want to listen to your internet radio on. So now they can listen while they drive in the car. And for those that are even beyond that, we went to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
We're on 13 podcast platforms. So wherever you want to find us, we're there.
And you're promoting it. And I've been,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a couple of the episodes with you and Doug, and I was flattered to do that. I was taken back by when I first learned about what you were doing, that just how is everything scheduled. It's almost like a TV network in a way. This is scheduled then. You could promote, hey, you're going to be on, Jane Doe is going to be on at 4:00. Make sure. And I thought it was well done. And you clearly put a lot of effort into it, and for good reasons. A lot of times, you know, people put effort into things just to do effort, but this was targeted, and it's good. I think I love what you guys are doing. I've been outspoken about that the whole way. I really enjoy what you're up to. And I like the fact that the Experience is a sponsor this
Absolutely.
year. That we're very proud to do that. And this is where I have to mention that, don't forget, April 3rd to the 5th in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the Experience is coming back. Our next event, the Chattanooga Convention Center. When this airs, you still will have time to get some early bird rates as attendee. There's plenty of space on the booths available. Contact me or the sales team, and some great stuff. We put the agenda up about 2 weeks ago. Love it. I'm so thrilled with the speakers coming, including Lance Eisen. Now, you've been a big part, you and Doug and the Normie in general have been a huge part of the Experience for years. I mean, do you remember the first time you went to the Experience by any chance?
No, and you can't see it now, but hanging behind me, I have from the ceiling a hook with all the badges that I've gotten attending, and there's a lot of them up there. Actually, I put a second hook up now. It's over 10 years, I'd say, that I've been attending the Experience shows.
You've been a big sponsor of the Experience as well. You're going to be recording and doing things this time too. Is there any great Experience stories jump out that you want to share with everyone?
Well, we tried something new last year where we went live from the Experience show across all of our platforms at the same time. And we were doing live interviews right there at our booth of all the movers and shakers, if you want to call it, in the industry. And it was fun. You know, we had you there, you were talking with us, we did an interview, and again, we pushed that out over everything at the same time. And we had people all over the country watching what we were doing at the Experience while we were there.
Yeah, it was creative, and I had a blast. It was funny. I thought it was funny. Maybe we need this time to get bigger signs, say you're on air or something. Because it was just funny. Everybody just came up and talking to Lance during our interview, and me, and so like, hey, we'll give us just 5 minutes.
But that adds to it because it's real.
I know. It was funny. It was great.
You know, and that's kind of what we went for there. And everybody was well behaved.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our booth was actually next to a bar, so it was really touchy, but no, it was good. We were very well behaved.
This is the first time I've been. I'm sorry, Lance. The people want to be by the bar a lot in this industry. I've noticed a lot of my exhibitors have that same request, which is kind of funny. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Oh no, I absolutely like that. It's a short walk. It's just like you said, we had a lot of people that were there, a lot of activity. It was nice to have people come in and sit down and talk with us.
Yeah.
And actually, that's the way our booth is designed. It's a large booth
Mm-hmm.
with seating area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want. We don't want people coming to us, we can sell them something. We want people to come to us with questions, with concerns, with suggestions. And that's how we meet people at these events.
Your booth is going to be in the back of the hall, the major booth right between the cleaning pavilion and the restoration pavilion and where the lunch area is. So it's a perfect setting for everything. You're going to be in the belly of the beast. Go back and talk to Lance and have fun. What would people be surprised to know about Lance? That's a question that came up a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's a good one.
I mean, I'm pretty much an open book. I do these types of things all the time, these interviews. I run interviews and I
Yeah.
do training several times a month online. So I do talk about my background because it's what helps me do what I do. And I try to encourage people to use your background as a tool to do what you do. But what would surprise people? It's like the story I told you before. It's the legitimacy of just wanting to help.
Yeah.
And people really are, yeah, I'm here to help you. And they're always like grabbing for their wallet to make sure it's still there. No, that's really what we do at Normie. It's about helping people in this industry.
Now, it's, you are an open book, and that's why I was always attracted to you, because you're a good guy, and you hated when I call you sir a
Yeah,
lot.
that's true.
Things of that
You
nature.
do that because I'm older than you and you keep reminding me.
I think that one thing I want to remind everybody that may not be available at this point, but we're doing the tours of the Shaw flooring plant on April 2nd, the day before the event. As of today, I believe 15 of the 75 have been sold, and this will be out in 2 weeks. So it may not be, but if it's still available, I would highly recommend doing that. Get to our website, register for the event, then register for Shaw. It's $199. 3 tours all day, transportation, lunch, all that stuff. So, any last words you want for our people? Why do you think people should come and see us in Chattanooga, Lance?
Your show, the experience is different from any of the other shows that I've been to, whether it's your spring or your fall show. And it's not about going to be sold something. It's going to learn about things. And that is very different in the, if you want to call it the home show or the, convention show type market. Everybody's trying to sell their products. It's really about who you are and selling yourself and your services where people can touch them, try them right there. You're not shopping on an Amazon catalog to buy a $10,000 widget. You're touching them. I mean, I love walking around and watching the robots run around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Robot cleaners and stuff. People are there trying to sell them. They're just showing the technology that's there. And, we didn't mention this, but technology right now is exploding, and our industry is not exempt from that. It's really playing into the industry. And we have a lot of people in this industry that have been doing things the same way for 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Several reasons. One, technology is changing so quickly, it's hard to keep up, but people fear technology, new stuff, and change.
Right.
And you can't in this industry. Don't fear the technology, embrace it. You have to.
So many
Your show
times.
highlights it.
Good.
Your show
Yeah.
highlights. That's what I was saying.
Thank you, Lance. I think it's hands-on has been drummed into my head since I started a couple of years ago, and it's true. There's more hands-on experience at these events than anything I've ever seen. If you want to go and learn your craft, this is the place to be. And we're excited to have you. We're very excited to have you and Normie be a part of be a partner with us for this. I think that's a good place to end. I think that was beautiful. I learned a lot about Lance. That's what I wanted out of this. If people don't love you yet, they love you now, Lance. All right.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for the opportunity. Though I do have one question, because you did
Yes, sir.
start off by saying we're good friends and everything else. I'm the 12th interview.
12th. Well, I'm building
Wow.
up to. We're building up to Chattanooga, man. It's a build.
Oh, okay. Good.
Don't
comeback.
tell Chuck Violan that, who was our first one. I'll tell him no. We start off with the best.
Yeah. Okay.
I told you, my big mouth talked me into doing 52 of these a year. So there's going to be a lot of people like the 40th that are going to be looking at me, shaking their head. But I thank you for being here. How's that? We'll leave with that. Hey,
Okay.
please thank you. Make plans to attend the experience April 3rd through the 5th in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee. You could register through our website, rnrmagonline.com. You can find this and all R&R videos and podcasts on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Please follow us if you haven't already, and feel free to leave a quick review. We'd love to hear from you. Also, please follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Very special thank you to our guest, Lance Eisen of Normie. This is Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Hello there, my name is Robert Pettyjohn, coming from you to beautiful downtown Wake Forest, North Carolina. My daddy said years ago that we are known by the company we keep. And I'm very thankful that 45 years ago, I was able to keep company with this young lady here beside me, Karen, out of Easley, South Carolina, and what a difference that has surely made in my life over the years. We're also very thankful that 35 years ago, the Lord led us to start Pettyjohn's Cleaning and Restoration here in North Carolina in Wake Forest. We're very thankful for that because over the years, Karen, we have now got almost 7,000 customers. Isn't that incredible?
That's wild. That's great.
My goodness, that's just amazing. And the reason for that is, and we started out cleaning carpets and upholstery and water damage restoration and all that because we were doing this for the health of our precious customers. Fortunately, we had the ability to sit under Dr. Michael Berry at the Research Triangle Institute there not too far away from us. And he impressed upon us the importance of cleaning for health, not just to preserve your investment or not just for appearance. And thankfully now we are cleaning Oriental rugs and have been for the last 35 almost years now. And we have the finest Oriental rug washing plant in the state of North Carolina, almost in the southeast, I'm sure of that. And we've got that reputation because we have kept good company. One of the companies we've kept with is an organization called the National Organization of Remediators and Microbial Inspectors, also known as Normie. This group is a perfect fit for us and for anybody that cleans for health because of the importance that they stress on us doing every single thing to improve the indoor air quality of our precious customers. As a result, I've kind of branched off and become an indoor air quality assessor and teach mold remediation and assessing throughout the Southeast, and I'm very, very thankful for that. But the reason that's important to us is because of the fact that we're keeping good company. Normie is a good company to keep. And I'm thankful to be associated with them, as I'm sure they're thankful to be associated with Pettyjohn's. We clean for health.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike Balzano, publisher of R&R and The Experience Events. Welcome to Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience. Today, this is episode 13, lucky 13. We have a guest today who's no stranger to the experience. He's been a leader at this event in our industry for a long time. He's a husband. He's a father, a leader. He's a marketer, a cleaning expert, a salesman, a spokesman, an avid photographer, a bear and wildlife aficionado. We'll talk about that in a little bit for sure. Okay. He is a proud Colorado Buffalo. He is a veteran of the experience. And he's the vice president of marketing of HydroMaster. Of course, it's Mr. Doyle Bloss. Welcome, Doyle.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that introduction. I looked at some of the previous people that you guys signed up for this series of podcasts, and it's fun because they're a lot of fun people. But I also feel honored just to be mentioned in the same sentence as some of these folks, because they've all given a lot for the industry and to help build a unique experience as it goes, a unique opportunity for the entire industry to come together at an event. And it's exciting to be a part of that because there was a time when the industry couldn't get together nationally. It just wasn't possible. There were too many organizations in too many places. So we'll talk more about that later. Yes, I am a proud Colorado Buffalo.
Indeed.
And for those of you who don't like Coach Prime, I just have this to tell you. I indoctrinated both my sons into the Colorado Buffaloes. Neither one of them ended up going to school there, but they both live and bleed the Colorado Buffaloes like I do. And they're both in their 20s and they've never seen anything. We've been lousy their entire lives. So we're hopeful Coach Prime gets us where we want to go. So we're excited about that. And yeah, I am a Colorado native. Went to school at the University of Colorado, and my heart's in Colorado. But if you haven't looked there lately, the prices are in Colorado are about equal to the West Coast. So it's not a cheap place to live anymore.
No, that's a lot. And actually, that first answer was wonderful, Doyle, because I was going to say, thank you for saying the nice things about this podcast. The real secret is, yeah, they're great people I've been having on, but this is my first time doing this. So I'm looking at my favorite personalities in the industry. So I could just sit here and smile and let you do all the work. It's working so far.
Good.
So, yeah, we almost moved to Colorado. Actually, we're down in Naples, Florida now. About 10 years ago, we realized we didn't have to sit through the crappy Ohio winters anymore. And because the snow there is you know it. You get a foot of snow in an hour, and then it's sunny for 3 days, and it's just beautiful. We have another event we run there. I go every year. I'm really flattered. I just love being there with the clear air.
Yeah, and people make fun. People keep asking me, why did you move to a little town in Kansas? And last week I was back in Everett at HydroMaster with our sales team and our production team, and we were having a bunch of meetings. And it took me about 10 minutes in the rental car on I-5 to remember why I like living in a small town in Kansas. So
Yeah.
the lack of we have one red light in our town, and it starts flashing yellow at 6 p.m. every night. So that's the kind of traffic I have to put up with.
That's nice. That's I'm very jealous, actually. That is nice, especially as we're not 25 anymore and we roll along. It's
Exactly.
calm us down.
Yeah,
Now as most people know, or for the two people who don't know, you've been in the industry forever, and actually your family has been in the industry forever. Tell me a little bit about how Ralph got started. Your dad and he's founded Steamway at age 60. Is that correct?
Well, he bought Steamway at age 60. He actually worked for the company for years before that. We lived in Illinois, and that's why I still root for the Cubbies. But we moved from Illinois back to Colorado. We couldn't wait to get back to Colorado, and he went to work for a gentleman named Clark Seedloom, who had started. Clark was one of the original pioneers in the industry. And when I throw out some of these names, the people under 40 are going to roll their eyes and go, "Who's that?" But I have written a lot of history stuff about the industry because I do think we owe a lot to those original pioneers in the industry that started companies. And I'll tell you a little story about that because I actually started. My dad went to work for Steamway, so when I was a teenager, I got an old Steamway portable. Those of you who've been around a long time remember the old Steamway 400. Portable is kind of an oxymoron. They weighed 168 pounds, but I was 15 years old, and a friend of mine and I decided we were going to start cleaning carpets. And my mother drove us to our first jobs in a cherry red 1972 Ford station wagon.
Yep.
But we discovered real quick that there was a lot more money in cleaning carpets than there was in flipping burgers at McDonald's or whatever else teenagers did in those days. So we started a carpet cleaning business, and I've heard a lot of the great stories about how people originally got in the industry, but one of the ones that I like to tell is I've been cleaning carpets for about a year, and we got a job to clean my dentist's office, and it was a 3-story building. So my friend and I that were running the carpet cleaning business, we figured if we could clean the carpets in a 3-story building, we could probably retire after that. I mean, this job, the numbers were so big, and it's probably a $2,000 job, but we thought this was it. And so we started cleaning the carpet. And of course, it's in the middle of the night when they're closed. And about 2 hours after we started, we were so proud of the route, the how fast we were going and how clean, how good the carpet looked. But we looked back over the carpet, and there weren't ripples in the carpet. There were waves. And I'm talking about knee-high waves in the
Right.
carpet. And back then, there wasn't ICRC schools. There certainly wasn't the internet. There wasn't people you could call to learn, what's happening and what should you do. The only person that I knew that I could call for help was my dad.
Hmm.
And my dad had a reputation of being this very kind soul. I have to tell you, he wasn't very kind that night because I couldn't get him to quit laughing because I really thought my life was over. I envisioned that I was going to be indebted to the owner of this building for the rest of my life, trying to buy them new carpet. And finally, in between my dad's chuckles, he finally spit out, "Let it dry, it'll go back down." And he was right. Of course it did, and it looked good. And nobody but my friend and I that were cleaning it ever even knew that happened. But for a while, I really did think my life was open. And I know a lot of my friends that were back in the industry in the 70s cleaning carpets can relate to that story because there was just a lot of stuff going on then in terms of the backings and the types of carpet fibers and just a general lack of knowledge. A lot of it was trial and error. That's kind of what you did sometimes is you tried it and hoped that it went well. So we enjoyed that, but I ended up going off to college. I was going to be a CPA. That was my big goal. And so I went to the University of Colorado, but right when I graduated, my dad finally had the opportunity to buy Steamway from the original owner. And he was 60 years old at the time. So the bank asked him, you know how banks are, even to this day. They were polite about it, but they kind of said, you're getting up there in years and you could kick off at any time. So could you get somebody to co-sign this loan? So he said, well, my son just recently graduated from the University of Colorado. He's going to be a CPA. And they said, okay, we'll take him. So I ended up co-signing the loan with my dad to buy the company. And I went back off to college because I was going to get a master's degree.
Mhm.
And my dad would call me about every 2 weeks and say, son, I love you. And I'm glad you're out there having fun. At this time I was only 23. And he said, but I'm old and senile and your name's on this loan too. I sure would appreciate it if you'd come back here and help me run this place. And by that time, my little brother had gotten involved and my mom had gotten involved. So it had already become a family business. And so I thought about it and I said, Dad, I really like it here. And he said, okay. So he would make that call about every month. And, I'm old and senile. And that's funny because he was 60 years old at the time and he worked every day he was alive until he passed away at the age of 79 at Steamway. So it wasn't like he was on the edge of losing it. He enjoyed this industry in a way that I don't think a lot of people can understand back then. And the things that he loved about the industry, I tell people that's the things I love. There's no other industry that I know of. I'm sure there are, but I don't know about it, where a husband and wife can decide to start a cleaning business and basically pull themselves up by their bootstraps, not have a lot of money. And 5 years later, they're not only making a good living for themselves, they've got 2 or 3 employees that they're making a good living for. That's why I love this business. In spite of ourselves, we can be successful at it. And the 70s and 80s proved that because there was nobody teaching anything back then. But early on, when I finally acquiesced and went to work for my dad. And, the first thing he did was sit me down at a class taught by Matt Clark, who was a business operator. And he taught business management and the Stop franchise is eventually where he ended up. And I met people like Ron Toney and Jeff Bishop and so many of the early pioneers of education in our industry. And that's caught my attention. I mean, I loved working with those guys. And so from day one in the industry, I was really involved in the educational side. And that was a big part of what Steamway did back in the day. And so it wasn't just making equipment and talking to people about truck mounts. another thing that I enjoy about the industry is that everything kind of stays in the same pattern. Back then, the big argument was about portables versus truck mounts. Do you really need a truck mounts? Now we talk about low moisture versus truck mounts, and obviously there's a place for everything. There is, but there's nothing like a fire breathing truck mount. There's just nothing, and people who try and explain them away just don't understand the science of cleaning. So obviously, I've spent my entire life involved in the supply side of the business. In 2003, after we had sold the business, when you buy this, Mike, when you buy a family business, it's very difficult to make your own way. And one of the things that I decided to do was my brother had left for Hawaii to become a realtor. We don't even talk about him anymore. He's the black sheep of the family living in Hawaii. So seriously, he's doing great over there.
I'll
He
bet.
loves it. Yeah. It's a tough life, but somebody's got to live there. But I just decided that it was after my father had passed away, and the new owner really needed to make his mark on the company. And I decided I was presented with an opportunity by the Hanks brothers to go out to work at what was known at the time as Hydroforce or Bridgepoint. Today we know it as a Ramsco. Or in Salt Lake City, and it was a big change. I mean, I've been in a family business for 20 years, and I at the time I left Steamway, I was the president of the company, and I went to work for them out there, and absolutely loved what they were doing with that company. They were also involved deeply in education and training, and the idea that they were building this network of distributors across the United States that could get supplies into the hands of cleaning and restoration professionals. I still laugh when I read on some of the forums about people complaining, well, my nearest distributor is 3 hours away. And well, there was a time when your nearest distributor was like 5 states away. So
Yeah, move to Montana. Good luck with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Montana's, and yeah, we used to give a hard time to our distributor in Montana because he was selling so many truck mounts. We were convinced that he must be getting elk and bighorn sheep to go into the cleaning business. So then I spent about 10 years there and was presented with an opportunity to go to work with HydroMaster. I'd always admired HydroMaster. When I was working at Steamway, they were a direct competitor, but Mike Palmer and Steve Brandt and the guys who built HydroMaster were friends of mine. And I, working at Bridgepoint, we were a big vendor. We were a big distributor for them, a big customer of theirs. So I went to work for HydroMaster and have been there ever since through a lot of different changes and ownerships and general managers. But one thing that's stayed true is the value of the cleaning equipment that the company manufactures. And it's been a fun ride. But like people ask me all the time, have you ever thought about leaving the industry? And sure, I mean, I've been presented with opportunities to leave the industry and go into training or public speaking and things like that. But I just love the fact that our business still represents such a great opportunity for people to grow a business and make something that is bigger than they ever imagined they could have. And that's, I think, one of the great joys about the Experience Convention is the ability of everyone to come together and celebrate what is a fantastic industry. So that's kind of like the quick history of what Doyle's been up to. And I'm on the tail end. Barry Costa and I were standing at the Experience Convention a couple of years ago. And one of the things that I always loved that Larry did was recognizing people from the industry who passed away. And he kind of had an in memoriam thing with pictures and a little bit about their story. And obviously, 100 words don't do the justice to the life of anyone, much less some of the pioneers in our industry. But I looked at Barry and I said, the problem, these people on the in memoriam board now are not our mentors.
Yeah.
They're our peers. So that's, I think, when I first recognized, and that's one of the things before I ever retire, I'm hopeful that younger leadership steps up. And I think some of them have. Lisa Wagner may not consider herself to be younger than me, but she is, and she's and she's a big part of what the Experience Convention does, and Mark Kennedy and some of those folks. And I think, the leadership is evolving that will take this industry into the next century. And if you look at the amount of change that's happened just in my 40-year career, imagine what this industry is going to look like in 2060, 2070, and what it might be doing. And so it's exciting to see that. You mentioned photography. Yes. I do, when I'm not working in the carpet cleaning business or in the restoration business, I do love to do wildlife photography. I try to go to Yellowstone or Grand Teton or Rocky Mountain National Park at least once a year. I love to photograph grizzly bears. I guess the best story I can tell about that was the first time that I was ever within range of a grizzly bear. It was about 75 yards away from us, and you're supposed to be 100 yards.
Right.
And but I had my two sons with me, and my youngest son, Josh, was about 6 or 7 at the time. And I looked at him, I said, "So Josh, are you scared of this bear?" And he said, "No, Dad, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you."
That's right.
So
that's right.
He quickly understood what we were doing, but to see wildlife in their natural habitat and photograph them, there's just nothing that I enjoy more. It's a grand opportunity, and obviously it's changed a lot. People ask me about it that are going to Yellowstone or going to Grand Teton. 30 years ago, to see a grizzly bear, it was a rare thing. You were lucky enough to see one. Now it's fairly common. The grizzly bear population is growing. Any of our friends up in Montana can tell you that, because it's expanding into neighborhoods and places where they traditionally were but haven't been in 150 years. But it's just a bighorn sheep, elk, deer. If they've got antlers or horns, I like to take pictures of them. And so I spend as much time as I can doing that, and it's just for fun. My nephew is a professional photographer, and he went on several trips to Yellowstone with me. And my brother asked me to take him out there because I asked him, he knew what all this camera gear was. And we were standing in a fox den where there was a fox with 4 brand new kits that had just been born. And I asked him to add up the amount of money that was in the photography equipment. And he said about $700,000 is what he came up with, was standing there by us. And I said, just remember that photography is a great thing to go into, but it's a very competitive business. So he's actually ended up being a very successful photographer, but he lives in Kauai, so he's got plenty of opportunities to take pictures of beautiful things. So that's what I like to do when I'm not doing things. I'm involved in church activities. I love to do that. My faith's a big part of my life and always has been. So I enjoy this industry and I enjoy the experience. So let's talk more about that.
Well, I want to go real quick because you said some great things. I want to ask you some quick questions about first. It's the 13th one we've done. Everybody, we drift into why did you get into the 2 answers. Well, number 1, we want to help people, which is true. And what you said is that it's an easy way to start the American dream. It's an easy way to start a business and get started. And I think both of those whys are wonderful and make you more excited to get involved in this, in my opinion. Because everybody has the same thoughts. We're helping people out at their darkest hour, and we can start a business. And anyway,
when you're in business for yourself and a challenge comes up,
right?
Sometimes you honestly think, I must be the only person this has ever happened to. This is
right.
There are some bizarre things that happen, but you know what? Over the years, I've learned if it happened to you, it's probably happened to somebody else, and somebody out there, maybe through trial and error, maybe through the education they got, they figured out a way to fix it.
And as you mentioned before, I mean, we have some. I've been on my soapbox all year about getting our great leaders to mentor the next generation coming up, and I always have to explain that I have an AARP card too. I'm not saying go away. I'm saying you're the stars of this industry, begging you to help these kids find the way because they're excited to come in, and I think that's great. Do you think your dad saw something in you? I mean, I know he tried to kind of trick you into signing that loan. as dads do. But do you think he saw something with this way to get you? Because now, you know what? I'm happy he's gonna be an accountant, but I know he could be great at this. Or am I?
Yeah, I do. I think he thought I was way too dynamic of a person and liked things, liked people too much to be a CPA.
Right.
You know, if you think about it, you know, and obviously there's lots of wonderful people who are CPAs, but it's a desk job. It's behind the scenes. It's back in that corner counting numbers and doing things. And you know, I have a friend who went on to be a very successful partner at KPMG and has a wonderful wife and daughter um, and is super successful. But you know, he and I grew up together. And we both went to school together to be CPAs. But yeah, I do. I think my dad thought, you know, he's a people person like I am, and he needs to be out with people. I don't have any doubt about it.
You and your dad were huge and are huge parts of the experience events. And by the way, it's a good time to mention the next event is coming up April 3rd to the 5th in Chattanooga at the Chattanooga Convention Center. You
That's
can
right. And everybody has to sing "Pardon Me, Roy" is at the Chattanooga Choo Choo.
Chattanooga Choo Choos are involved, and Sean Bission is already working on he's a train guy, as you know. He's working on some choo choo based fun.
And listen, let me tell you a couple things about
Yeah.
Chattanooga. Number one, the train itself, where they have the Chattanooga Choo Choo, is an awesome place. It's fun. And people don't understand Chattanooga is a great place to go. I've traveled the whole world, and I think the best aquarium I've ever been to is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So if you love sea wildlife, they have just an awesome aquarium.
Perfect. What now? One of the things we know by our friends at Clean Facts event originally started the Ralph Bloss Award, the humanitarian award. What was the origin of that? I mean, obviously it's because he was such a legend in the industry.
Well, I'll tell you, it was actually the brainchild of a gentleman named Evan Kessler, who was the publisher at the time of ICS magazine, which was a BNP meeting.
And R&R. So he was our original creator
he
of
was
this magazine.
the editor of at the time.
Right.
And he's still very good friends with our family. And as a matter of fact, just recently announced he's retiring because of some health issues. And you know, Evan was another pioneer in our industry, and his original boss, Howard Olansky. I've talked about both of them in my history blog that I have. But Evan went to my dad's funeral, and everybody that was from the industry knew about my dad's contributions inside the industry. But I think the thing that struck him is that there were 18 pastors at my dad's funeral, head pastors of churches.
Wow.
And one of the things that my dad did in his life was pastor to pastors. And what I mean by that, if you think about it, if the preacher of your church or your synagogue or whatever faith you might be, if the bishop, or whoever it might be that is assigned to, you know, tender to the flock, who tenders to them? Because they're just people. And that was one of the things that my dad loved to do, was to encourage and counsel pastors. And then the other thing that I think struck Evan at the time was all the different charitable events and things that my dad was involved in that he knew nothing about. You know, he felt like I thought I knew this guy. And the church camp that I went to when I was a kid in Colorado had just named a cabin, and because of all his contributions to that church camp. And what it really came down to is that my dad got involved anywhere, anything. He got involved, and he did something about it. And so that kind of birthed the idea that there was a lot of people in our industry that do humanitarian efforts. Some of them are well known, some of them you've never heard of. Some of their humanitarian efforts are well known, and some you don't know anything about until somebody tells you about them. You know, one of the definitions of humanitarian is somebody who does something without recognition. And there's literally thousands of people in our industry who mentor and serve their communities in a way that most of us never know about. You know, I read about a carpet cleaner in the United Kingdom who 2 weeks ago went to a job site where he was cleaning for a 93-year-old woman that was dying of leukemia.
Mhm.
And he just said at the end of the job, he couldn't possibly bring himself to charge that way. And that's the kind of industry, right? People who care. And
Mhm.
that's kind of what birthed that award is that just that it recognizes people. Sometimes you've heard of them and sometimes you have no idea who they are. And last year's winner, Jorge, is just he's one of the best human beings you could ever meet. And I didn't know Jorge, so he won the award. A lot of my friends knew him, but I didn't know him. And after meeting him, I'm like, wow, this is one impressive individual. And that's what's been the funnest thing about the award is the people who vote on it, the people who vote on the winners. It's not political. It's not out to recognize the biggest supplier, although some of the biggest people from the biggest suppliers have won. It's voted on by the past winners.
Right.
So it's like, and now we're up, 20 something winners. So it's always an impassioned thing. They take this, the men and women on that committee take that award so seriously. You can't imagine how serious they are about it. And they take it and every year the vote is close because we always get 2 or 3 candidates that just stand out. And it's always very close. It's not like, that one person runs away with it. There's always 2 or 3 very, very worthy recipients. And there's literally 50 or 60 people that have been nominated over the years that have never won it. And their nomination gets voted and they may never win, but they're just superhuman beings. They're just the things they do for their community and the industry itself, but mainly their community on this award are just outstanding. So I really appreciate BNP Media and the experience, Larry and Clean Facts carried it on, and I'm very appreciative of it because there's plenty of awards that recognize people who achieve things in our industry inside the industry. But sometimes we need to step back and go, there is life outside of cleaning and restoration, and recognize people who are just doggone good people. That's what it comes down to.
Just again, doing these 12 little interviews, I've learned everybody's got such a great, you peel the onion back. They're good people. Like what you just explained, Lisa Lavender owned an Arena Football League team. Lisa Kennedy went to go to school to study Russian studies when the USSR crumbled. It's like all these interesting things. And I'd imagine it's not just the 12 people I talked to. It's an industry-wide phenomenon. The Ralph Bloss Humanitarian Award is such a big deal at our event every year. And I'm so glad that we're still doing it. And what was the first time you went to the experience? Do you
That's
remember?
a great question, Mike. The truth is that if you go back in time before the connections and then what became the Experience Convention, there were 13 different trade associations, regional trade associations around the country that held their own events. And I feel fortunate that when I was traveling young in my career, I did get to go to a lot of those events because I've met people at MSPCA and NEIRC and SCRT and CFI and CCI&W and PRCA, and I could go on with the alphabet soup, but the people that I met, just tremendous people. But the truth is that their events were local. And at the time, every manufacturer, there weren't a lot, the restoration industry wasn't nearly as developed then as it is now. Now if you have a restoration event, you've got consultants, you've got software, you've got all kinds of detection equipment, computer, you name it that has an interest in our industry. Back then it was people who made air movers and dehumidifiers and people who made truck mounts and portables and chemicals. And that's really all there was. And so you'd go to these regional events and, there might be 150 people there. I always tell my favorite story is my dad went to a trade show in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now, if I'm going to plan a trade show, Tulsa, Oklahoma is destination that I would think of. But actually, I'm kidding it. But I love Tulsa. I live near Tulsa.
Right, I understood.
Yeah, I don't want to insult all my friends in Tulsa, but I think they would admit that nobody goes to Tulsa on vacation. But there were 54 exhibitors, and the attendance was 27. 27 people came to the show. But my dad, the ever optimistic, I said, so how do you, oh, it's great. It's fantastic. But made lots of good connections. That was my thought. There was never an event that where we didn't meet somebody who was going to be an integral part of the future of our company. And that was his optimism. That was always the way he looked at it. But as you can tell, those events were expensive for the vendors.
Mhm.
They weren't well attended. Generally, you were talking to people who, you know, you and I talked about this, Mike. You know, who do I want to meet at a trade show? I want to meet, see all my friends. I want to see all my customers. But to make it financially beneficial, I need to meet some people I've never met before who are newer to the industry and they haven't been in it 25 years and
Right.
they've been using this brand of truck mount since the beginning and they're happy with it. I need to meet some new people. And so all you met were the same friends. But the bigger part of it was that because there were so many small regional events, there was never an opportunity for the industry to get together as one group. And so all the trade associations came together and Larry Cooper birthed the idea of, at the time it was called Connections. And it started, I remember I've been to every single experience event except one since its inception. And it started out, it wasn't a great success at the beginning, but it wasn't a flop either. It went really well because the industry was clamoring for a national event. And obviously, over the years, it became immediately obvious that in spite of what some of us think of Las Vegas, that is the place to go. That's where people go.
You'll,
Um,
yeah.
But
I feel exactly the same way, by the way. Go ahead.
I like to tell the story. The first time my wife went there with me, driving out of town, and she kept turning around as we were driving away from Las Vegas. And I said, honey, what are you doing? She says, I'm looking for the pillar of salt shaped as Las Vegas.
That's
Now, some of you will get that joke, and some of you have no idea what that means. But anyway, that's Las Vegas. But it's obviously a destination. There's so much to do there. But also that there have been many other successful East Coast events. You know, you and I were talking about Clearwater Beach and what a great place that was. And that outgrew the facility that the event was in. You know, I think everybody gets, why'd they ever move it from there? Because it couldn't hold it anymore.
We got too big.
It got big. So the first events were fairly successful, but as you know, this industry is full of organizations, and I don't mean this to sound bad. It's not. They have an agenda that has to do with them, and so there were some groups that never did join the experience. Some trade associations, some franchises, obviously, that never joined the experience, but it became the go-to national event, and it really did. And I know that, you know, every year, and especially Mike, now that you're the person running the show, you're going to hear from people who are disappointed in this and disappointed in that. And what, you know, it's nothing but, you know, you'll hear complaints. But let me tell you, if you haven't been around a while, you don't have the ability to learn from history. And the industry needs a single go-to national event that everyone is welcome. Doesn't mean that they need to stop their event, but there's certainly nothing wrong with coming to this event.
Mhm.
And it needs that. And as over the last few years, as you know, that the restoration industry has taken on a life of its own, and there's a lot of events because of the importance of restoration, first response, and things like that. As some of these bigger hurricanes hit, and literally people lost their lives and their homes and all that. You know, the government got involved in everything else. But I encourage people. The experience event is the industry event. It's the go-to industry event where everyone is welcome. Anybody can attend, anybody can exhibit. Unfortunately, Mike, you even let my competitors in. I don't know why, but you do. And it's a place that you can be at. And you know, the truth is some of the manufacturers have backed away from the trade. And you and I know why. It's very expensive. It's very expensive to put on a trade show. If people had any idea how much you had to pay for that room a day.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, And if they knew that, you know, what dryage costs and all the things that the exhibitors have to pay to get in there. But in the end, it's worth it. It's worth it because it's the industry coming together. And the truth is, you need the exhibitors, you need the new equipment or the new software or the new, you know, consultant or whatever it is. You need those because that's what attracts people to come. But the biggest part of the event is sitting there talking to each other in the 10 minutes before the speech starts. And I don't think people understand how fun it is to be amongst peers who are there to help you grow. And that's, you know, I'm here to learn. Here's what I've tried. It worked. This didn't. That's the best part of the experience, is the ability to learn from your peers. And the truth is, over the years with the trade shows, I think people miss, because carpet cleaning can be so competitive.
Mhm.
People think that everybody's like that. Some of my best friends work for competitors. I enjoy getting to see them and catch up with them, to find out how their families do it and all that. You know, the exhibitors in this, and it hasn't always been this way, but the exhibitors in this industry are friends with each other, and they enjoy getting together. And the truth is, we'd rather talk to end users, but if we get a chance to talk to each other, that's great too, and catch up. And so the experience is the go-to industry event, and it grew out of a need for the industry to have a single go-to place that anybody was welcome at. And it's a great opportunity to learn, a great opportunity to network, and the truth is, have some fun. I mean, if you like Vegas, you'll have fun in Vegas. If you don't like Vegas, you know, listen, if I can find things to do in Vegas, anybody can. I don't like 90% of Vegas, but there are things there that I had no idea how talented Donnie and Marie Osmond, as an example. So there you go.
You're still going strong.
That's one of the best shows I've ever been to.
Well, before
Terry,
we, I got to pull us in though. Before we go to Vegas, we got to go to Chattanooga, Tennessee.
that's right. So let's focus on Chattanooga, because the East Coast event has always been smaller.
Yeah.
And depending on where it's been, in Atlanta, it's been in Florida, it was in Cincinnati a couple of years back. Depending on where it's at, the audience kind of changes. And that's nothing wrong with that. That's actually can be a good thing, because it's different people every year for you to meet. But the upcoming event in Chattanooga, you know, the lineup that you guys put together every year is just phenomenal. And I know that there's some people out there who bellyache about the influence that this organization or that company has on the event, and this speaker and that speaker. But you know, some of the smartest people I know work for my competition, and they have things that they can teach you to help your business with. So the fact that they don't work for HydroMaster doesn't mean that they don't have value. It means that they do. There's a lot of value in what they have to say. So the people that are there, and you've been interviewed, you know, the Barry Costas and the Sean DeSales and Lisa Wagner's and Mark Kennedy's and on, and Chuck Viola, you've got Chuck and I think we're the first two people in the industry who actually taught somebody, you know, how to do cost analysis. And he's made a business out of it, and it just does a tremendous job. It's great. And on and on and on. I can't name everybody, but the show that you put together in Chattanooga is one that people would be crazy if they didn't consider going, especially if they're in the eastern half of the United States and they're not Vegas fans. You know, if there's a lot of people out there that aren't Vegas. If you're not a Vegas fan, then go to Chattanooga.
That's right.
Chattanooga's about as the opposite of Vegas as you can get. And we'll all go out and get grits and have a good time.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
I've always said, Larry, he didn't name this the experience by chance. He wants everybody to have fun, have an experience, have a good time. But you're right. I mean, the hands-on is what brings a lot of attendees, and those attendees are the ones who are going to buy your products. And that's the whole point of it. One final thing I want to throw out there, you triggered something that I was thinking about in another podcast about what I learned during COVID. And I think, you know what, we can all agree on this. I dare to say, is that you got to be with people. You know, we were without
absolutely.
people for a couple of years, and bad stuff happened all over the place.
It did. We're still suffering from the
Yeah.
case. And
So
yeah, I agree. 100%.
getting to expos and coming out and seeing your friends and your competitors. And I also said, it's funny you mentioned about your competitors. I mean, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are best friends now. That didn't mean they want to beat each other's brains in when they
Yep,
played. It's
absolutely.
okay. It's American competition. That's okay. So this is great. By the way, Doyle and HydroMaster are going to be exhibiting in Chattanooga. And please make plans to join us and attend the experience April 3rd through the 5th. You can register through our website, rnrmagonline.com. You could find this in all R&R videos and podcasts on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Please follow us if you haven't already, and feel free to leave a quick review. And also, please follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. A very special thank you to our guest, the one and only Doyle Bloss. This is Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks, Doyle.
Okay, everybody, we are back live again from the Experience Trade Show in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we have the person now that if something goes wrong, gets blamed.
Yes, that is 100% true.
Mike Balzano from BMP Media.
Yes.
And your official title of this show is the person to blame, right?
I'm the group publisher. I'm a publisher of R&R, and I'm the person to blame at the experience. That's 100% correct.
Well, I haven't found any fault yet. So,
Not good. That's good.
but it's early in the interview, so we'll see where that goes.
I wanted, before we get started, I want to say we talked at the experience in September, and it was one of my favorite interviews we've ever done. So as a tribute to that, I wore the exact same outfit. I swear to God.
You did have it cleaned first, right?
Clean. This is
Okay.
my black shirt. Little for you, my man.
Well, it's consistency. I appreciate that.
It's a luck thing.
Absolutely. So we're here at the Tennessee show. This is, I guess, what you would call your East Coast show or your spring show.
Yeah, yes. I think we were talking about that too. When we should change the names, if it should be spring and fall, or because everybody calls it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Spring experience, the fall experience. This year we're in Chattanooga, and the reason I know this was chosen because we wanted to take tours of the Shaw flooring plant, and that
Right.
happened Tuesday to big success. People that went there loved it. And so I'm glad we came in. Chattanooga I've never been here before. It's pretty nice.
Me either. So
Man.
it's definitely different. It's kind of like the big city that isn't.
And we are also very happy. I mean, since we're here now, you people don't know. I wish you'd come here, but we still have a day to go. You can get here tomorrow.
That's right. One more day of this show, but we have the big event coming up in the fall.
Yeah, the big event is going to be in the fall, Las Vegas, Caesars Forum. Again, we've been there for the last few years. We're going to be at Harrah's at the hotel, and we're very excited about that. The floor plan has been put up, and it's about half filled already. That's not a sales presentation. People are kind of really excited about that event, as are we.
Well, I was talking to Scott earlier.
Yep.
And from BMP Media also.
Yep.
And we were talking about the size of the show in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I made a suggestion to him because he was always looking for suggestions. Hey, anything that would help? I said, yeah,
Sure.
why don't you open up the Segway concession stand? Because the amount of walking, it's just massive, the place.
It's getting from the hotel to the Caesars Forum is a lot. We here. What's nice about this here is we're literally a 5-minute walk to our hotel rooms and back.
Yeah.
There, you really got to think, oh man, I forgot I left my card there. Do I really want to go all the way back there? Waste an hour coming back and forth.
Well, we're making fun of it, but I mean, it's got to be that big to accommodate that many people that go to the show.
Oh, that whole city is like that, isn't it? Though you hear the stories of people saying, "Oh, there it is, they're right over there," and you're walking for an hour and a half, and you're still not there yet. But they've treated us very well. What we're doing this year, for those who went last year, we kind of turned the floor plan on its side.
Mhm.
Those who went to the event, they know that there's a huge video screen coming down the escalator. That's where the short floor is going to be. The opening is going to be there this year
Okay.
on the side. The reason for that not only is easier to get in that way, but we can put the conference rooms a lot closer. The conference rooms were a long walk last year. Remember that?
Yes.
So they'll be a lot closer and a lot more condensed, away from those drone people.
Are they going to be
They'll be back.
at the same time?
Yeah.
Because half of them were in our training rooms that we were doing.
And you know what? There's some. It was nice to see some crossover. And they learned from you, and they learned from things, and that was great.
There was a lot of crossover. I mean, we were scanning badges. It's
Yeah.
like none of these would scan. We looked, oh, you're here for the drone convention.
Right. But so we're friends with our partners down the street.
Well,
A little bit.
It worked out. And you know
Yeah.
what? It does expose a whole different industry to what we do. And truthfully, a lot of people in our industry are using drones now.
Yeah.
So there's crossover in both directions.
Yeah, it's not. there's nothing wrong with new technology and utilizing it. And they certainly are. And you're right. It crosses over. IAQ and what you're specializing in these days, everybody should be talking about that.
Yeah.
And we're happy to have our little niche of it in our show. So we're happy.
Yeah, that pesky thing about breathing.
we talked about stuff. Yeah, if only you didn't have to breathe, it wouldn't be a big deal.
Right. You're just so much easier, in your daily lives. So anything else expected to happen here in the next day or so? Any surprises?
No surprises. I was so happy. Lisa Lavender, Barry Costa did a wonderful job on our restoration pavilion. Also, Mr. Manis and Sean Bissiano have done a great job with the cleaning pavilion. I'm so impressed with the professionals and they've done. They kind of this was a transitional show. Everybody knows it,
right?
And they just grabbed the wheel and took it. And I'm so happy with my team for fighting through this. And I think the people who are here are having a great time. We're excited.
Well, that's the one thing about this show that's different than all the other shows that are out there. You don't come to this show like it's a home show where you're coming here to sell stuff.
Right.
You're coming here to meet people and form relationships and alliances with other people in this industry.
Yeah. You form relationships, but more than that, it's hands-on. The hands-on things we're doing, those pavilions. Today's session, Wednesday and Friday, day 1 and day 3 are traditional agenda sessions you're used to.
Right.
Today, Thursday, it's all hands-on training. A lot of carpet and rug cleaning. It was just a great day of learning, and I think people know that. We all know what a traditional event is like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's what separates us from everybody else. No one does this like we do. You come if you want to learn, you come here.
Yeah.
You get your hands dirty and learn and figure your craft. Coming out of Vegas last year, I guess I'm not surprised at this, but we found that 85% of the attendees of that event were from a company of less than 50 people. Which is not a big surprise when you think about it, but it made me change my thinking. I'm like, holy cow, if we could probably make that 20 people or less. These are all small business owners trying to grow their business, but either by learning how to do things better or business management. And we tailored our messaging this to them. And I think it's gone okay. I think so.
And it works. This morning we saw, because we had 3 sessions this morning about building containment.
Yep.
And air scrubbing and setting up lay flat and all those different hands-on skills that a lot of people that were there never did before.
Right.
A few of them, unfortunately, we said, anybody ever do this? And guy raised, a volunteer, come on down. T7 raised his hand.
Well, isn't that what the old thing when you volunteer and everybody just steps back?
Steps back.
Yeah. Right.
That's kind of what happened. There were too many people though to step back. So, but it worked out. And, we built containment. It was short sessions, but we were able to demonstrate all the different things we wanted to.
Right.
And we had people afterwards just staying there asking us questions and coming to our booths and stuff. And it's all good.
It is good. And thank you and Doug and Normie for being such great sponsors of our events. I don't know if we could do this without you. And because
you could, but not as well.
I could, but in all seriousness, we'd be missing the knowledge you bring. That's the point. And we're going to be a part of this event forever, as long as I'm a part of it.
All right. Well, I thank you for taking the time. I know you got a thousand things going on here.
No.
So,
you.
not at all.
No.
Oh, okay. So we got another hour or
I
so
have
to
to
go.
complain for something else, but that's okay. I'm happy I have thick skin. We'll be okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure, sir.
Thanks, Lance.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you out in Vegas.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time.
Absolutely.
I want to welcome today's guests, Kana and Ramu Sankara from Reusip. We've been working with these guys for quite some time. We've spent a lot of time at some trade shows together, and we'll get into that as we're talking through this. So, guys, want to pop in here and say a quick hello and tell us a little about yourselves?
Hi, I'm Ramu. I'm Kana. We're identical twin brothers and co-founders of Reusip.
Well, could you let us know a little bit about the company? We hear the name, we think we know what it's about, but give us a little bit more detail for those that don't know who you are.
Okay, so I think what we're best known for is our making the world's first reusable dust barrier zipper and the world's first magnetic entry strip, which is essentially a self-closing dust barrier zipper, also reusable. And it essentially works on a hook and loop system where you're just buying these things, which is essentially loop Velcro strips. This is the only consumable part and then the other ones are reusable. So it's almost like the Dollar Shave Club of zippers. So I guess that would be the easy way to summarize it.
Well, I'm gonna put you guys on the spot in a little bit. I got a few questions I'd like to really go over with you to kind of set the stage here, but I'm gonna ask you to do some demonstrations if that's all right.
For sure.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so I know getting in touch with you guys, I've had some issues because you're always traveling. I know you're at all the trade shows all over the place, and you're always someplace. It's kind of like, where are these guys? So, you know, how does it work out for you at the trade shows? Because I know I've seen you at quite a few of them.
Oh, I mean, it's almost like we need a triplet, because it's like we're always slammed at all these things. It's which is great. I'm not complaining, but we're exhausted after these things because there's always like lines and we're demoing this thing over and over. And we're very grateful that it's something that's very that people care about. I know it's a small thing like a zipper, but we know on the job site they're interacting with this part of the containment all the time, and we're happy that we can provide some value there.
Well, I know at the experience show and some of the other shows we've been at, you've actually been with us in our booth, and we've set up walls and demonstrated containment with your equipment, which has always been a big draw. Like you said, there's a lot of people there with a lot of interest.
Well, I can say in the very, very beginning, we went to an experience and we're just, we didn't know what we're doing. You guys saw our product, and actually you're probably one of our first supporters. You took our magnetic strip and put it on your flood booth, and which was awesome of you guys. So we'll always be grateful for that. So thank you. And thank you for having us.
Well, you're welcome. And you know what? It was a real good add-on because we were demonstrating containment and all the different ways that you can do that, and you have to access containment, and it was just a natural fit with what you do. Matter of fact, in our CMA and CMR classes, we demonstrate the reuse systems, I'm going to call it, or products, because you have several different ways of doing stuff, and there's no one size completely fits all. So we show your stuff. We do show a few other types of processes, and then pros and cons. And, having that in there for the students to get their hands on it, touch it, use it, see it, experience it, makes all the difference in the world. So I'm going to thank you for allowing us to use that in our classes, because it does make a big difference.
Well, obviously, we're yeah. Thank you. But we mentioned what we make, and I think I should say why we made the zipper and what makes it different, because people think, well, there's dozens of other options like it. What we believe is that the entire restoration industry simply adopted what was around, and what was around was, we believe, remodeling and general dust containment zippers. And ours are designed, what we believe is designed for critical barriers, and it was born out of the restoration industry and made more specifically for this industry. But the quality is such, and the price points are such, that it's good enough for healthcare, construction, and mold remediation and more critical environments, but it's priced that all industries will benefit from it. So our mission is essentially to develop products for critical environments, and at the end of the day, it's going to benefit everyone.
Well, speaking of the critical environments, your system will work with negative and positive pressure, correct?
Yes, and in the beginning, people didn't actually believe, like when we showed the magnetic entry strip, people assumed, and I think it's because of the old way of what they're used to, is they're probably buying magnetic doors, that those don't hold negative air pressure. But we proved over the last 2 years during the pandemic that these things will hold over 5 pascals of negative air pressure. Probably, I believe that's double what's required for isolation rooms in healthcare. And these were used for self-closing COVID isolation rooms in hundreds of hospitals and medical facilities, like senior living, dental,
a bunch of government facilities.
Yeah. So we kind of went away from restoration for a bit, and went into really focusing on, and we got up in the morning to help, like, I don't know, we almost made it a personal mission to help with the fight against the pandemic. And because we knew we had the only product that can not just hold negative air pressure, but works in open concept, because you can position this thing, anything on a barrier, and it works with any size barrier. So all the barrier constraints are eliminated. But it was great to be able to partner with the restoration companies that would listen, because we actually enabled them to get jobs, like lots of jobs, because they would just use their containment skills to build barriers of all kinds of shapes and sizes, and then just install our product. So it was kind of a big win-win.
Leftovers.
Yeah, and oh yeah, totally forgot about that. One problem that we're happy to have solved is when we put these on, I'm going to show you the demo later, but we would solve the self-closing access through isolation rooms. And we were happy we were able to get the doctors and nurses away from using the zippers, but they had brought up, well, one problem we have is gurney access. We're dragging the plastic over the gurneys and all that. And we told them, well, since we've eliminated the barrier constraints, you can actually use two of them like side by side at variable widths, and you can accommodate, you can create the first ever magnetic flap door. So now we're doing flap doors and double flap doors, and our products open up all kinds of different containment techniques. And there's several. There's several, from even one feature. Oh, you got it.
They can go over the benefits and pros and cons.
Yeah, even the simplest thing like this, which is we added a grommet at the bottom of our zippers, so you can do lockout, tag out by overlaying here and putting a cable lock through here. And people were doing that in facilities where they were not fumigating, was it the gas treatments with the
sanitizing.
Yeah, sanitization. And they would put the zipper on, lock it out, and let it sit for an hour. And then with our system, you can actually peel off the zipper and put the magnet in its place. The zipper and magnetic strip are interchangeable.
On the same mounting strip that's already installed on the barrier.
Yep.
That's one of the things that I like about the system, especially for any kind of medical environment. You don't have to physically touch anything to gain access. You literally can walk, with your shoulder, it opens up, you walk through, you don't have to zip, unzip, and have that a touch point that becomes an issue with transmission of bacteria, mold, viruses, things like that. So as far as the different verticals that this could work in, I mean, you've named quite a few of them, but it could go down as far as just a regular dust barrier too, not just, decon chambers and positive and negative pressure environments.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost countless. Every day we're getting different industries buying from us, from grow rooms, so that would be like mushroom farms and cannabis facilities, to people doing HVAC thermal control inside of trailers and RVs, and retail facilities and food facilities. So
greenhouses and
outdoor greenhouses, which, another technique that's a good point is that we helped someone doing an outdoor greenhouse where they put the magnetic strip on the inside of the barrier, and then they put the zipper on the outside because there were severe wind gusts, but he still wanted to be able to go hands-free access. So he'd go in and out, and then just use a zipper on the outside. So you can actually use them in combination, which is yet another technique. And so we feel like we're going to open up the type of techniques and empower the contractors, because I mean, we've seen some skilled contractors and see how proud they are with the containments. And if we can give them, it makes us happy if we can give them more tools to do what they do even better.
So I was surfing around your website earlier. I just want to see if there's anything new since the last time I was out there. And what comes to mind is it's 4 terms, but you've answered some of it. I just want you to expand on it a little bit more. The words I found were reusable, reliable seal, cost-effective, and versatile. I know you've talked about versatile already. Can you touch on some of the others? I'll give them to you again. We talked about reusable. So you're only replacing the bottom piece?
All right. So let me just do a quick breakdown of the entire zipper.
Yeah, break down the
Okay.
zipper and points, what we saw with the reusability.
Okay. So with traditional disposable dust barrier zippers, the complaints that we see all the time are the zippers jamming, breaking, and separating from the barrier, and people having to use additional adhesive to keep it on there. We've eliminated all three of those because with this, for brake resistance, we have a 7-gauge zipper versus standard 5-gauge, so it's higher brake resistance. There we go. The 2-layer system. So this is the peel and stick mounting strip. This will be added on. The two layers are too thick to get stuck in the zipper head, so they're essentially jam proof. And you don't need a special knife that cuts a gap or anything to create that jam resistance. You just use a regular utility knife down this cut guide, and it is the poly sheeting is not going to get stuck in there and stuck in the zipper head. So jam resistance. And then if you look at the back of this mounting strip, it's 100% high grade adhesive. You're not going to have to put on additional tape and to prevent the zipper from coming down. We've heard about people who literally sent their technicians out to check their zippers to make sure the barriers haven't failed or the zippers aren't coming down. The other great thing is replaceability. In the worst case scenario, the zipper breaks. Well, with other containments, you have to redo the entire containment. With ours, peel it off, just replace the zipper, and you're good to go. This zipper is probably the same, if not less, in cost than a disposable zipper anyway. And then the mounting strip is about a third of the cost of a zipper. So continual use will actually help you continue to save money. I mean, people essentially make money off of our zippers if they're using it more than once. And if they use it only once, it's not like you're out of pocket, like extra or anything, because it's comparable in price to a heavy duty zipper.
All right, one last question before I ask you to show us a little bit about how these things work. I see you have a setup behind you. Pressure and strength. As far as how much pressure can they really handle? Has it been measured? You have documentation on that?
We almost say we had it field tested. We don't have it documented, but it's essentially been used in the field, measuring over 5 pascals. We hit 7. Some people got it to hold like 11 pascals.
I believe at one of the trade shows, just to test the disposable zipper strength and versus our reusable, I think we did hit over 30 pascals, and some of the other disposable zippers started separating from the poly, and ours didn't.
Yeah, that's ripping down the containment before our zippers even coming off.
Okay.
With the Velcro, it's I can't say Velcro, it's hook and loop. There's a little bit of give that you don't, and adjustability that you get that you won't get with the disposables.
Okay. Well, I see, I mentioned it before, you have a setup behind you. Could you give us a demo on how this works?
Yeah.
Just remember, we may not be able to hear what you're saying if you're far away. That's all.
We're going to be moving the camera. All right. So, in the interest of time, we already put up the mounting strip. So the peel and stick mounting strip goes on just like a disposable desk barrier zipper. You'll peel and stick this on, and what you'll do is just add the zipper and put it down. You'll open it up, and then you'll just cut down the cut guide. And then you got your zipper on. Alternatively, you can cut first, add one side at a time. And once you've got it on, you also got this feature, which that's where you can either put a cable lock through the front or pierce through here and do it all the way through. And then you've got the lockout tag out with the zipper. So here is show you how we can interchange between zipper and magnetic strip. So we'll just roll up the zipper, and it has these fastener tabs right here. Fastener tabs that'll hold it in place neatly. And then we got this carry bag that'll go into. I'll show you that a little later. But here's how you switch from zipper to magnetic strip. So this is the magnetic strip. Same thing, has a hook on the back, magnetic columns. And the trick here is you'll put on the mounting strip, cut it first. This way you'll prevent from cutting the magnets. So you'll put that and cut it first. You'll fold this in half. So the magnetic columns are stacked. And then you simply by one side. Come down. Yeah. So. So, yeah, and then this is right off. Easily fold back up.
How much training do you need to get that right?
It's not very difficult. If someone's already using a desk zipper, it's pretty simple.
Very good. I mean, it does look simple. And when we've used it in class, I've never done a switch like that. I mean, we usually put one up or the other, but it's just as easy, I guess, to switch, which you just demonstrated.
Yeah. So one of the first medical facilities that used our product was Orlando Regional Medical Center. And there, I believe there's a board of people that were discussing our product, looking for a solution because they couldn't hold maintain levels of the proper level of air exchange in the isolation rooms because the nurses and doctors were leaving the zippers open. They had initially they had access to our zippers, so they put those up and they wanted the magnets. They're like, okay, we'll give it a shot. They went ahead and put on the zippers because that's what they had because they needed to get something up immediately. And he said, go ahead, do that because you're going to be able to switch out to our magnets. And then they did, and it ended up solving their air exchange issue. Obviously, because the nurses and doctors are not leaving it open. But then we also proved that it can actually hold those levels of air pressure required. Then after that, more and more hospitals started kind of catching on and doing it. So we've been trying to get the word out there, but right now it's a lot of individual locations. But we had like Patterson Air Force Base, HCA, Dignity Health, Kaiser, like some of the big names, and recently Canadian Special Forces ordered for their medical facilities. So, you know, it's out there. We've proven it all over the place, and you know, this is going to help us hopefully get the word out more to industries you guys work with too.
Well, we're definitely going to have this out there for our members and our followers, so they will see that. So without putting you on too much of a spot, which I don't mind doing, is there anything new coming that you can talk about? I don't want any trade secrets here, but anything new that you can let us know what's coming. If you say no, that's okay too.
Let me maybe hint at it. Only because we're trying to be a little careful.
Enough said. Enough said. We can go with that.
Yeah.
So where can somebody buy this stuff?
You know what? Better to cut me off. Yes, there are going to be things, and I'll just say there are going to be things coming out that are going to they're going to add even more containment techniques, and it's like we're excited about it. It's coming soon, but yeah, you'll see it real soon. Yeah.
Okay. So where can somebody purchase this stuff? Is it in the big box stores, to distributors, from you guys? You know, where do people go to get the reusable systems?
So we sell it directly online and on Amazon, but we also just recently, actually as of yesterday, just launched with Wesco Hazmasters Connie Safety. So that's in Hazmasters in Canada, Connie Safety's in the US. There are several locations of Aramco that have started carrying it. So we believe it'll start going more system-wide. And we have several big distributors testing this out right now. And so hopefully it's going to be everywhere soon. No big box yet, but we have companies like HD Supply and people like that reaching out to us to test it. So,
And we're in some locations in UK and Australia, and we're starting to spread. So,
But that's good to hear, because we've also recently been doing stuff in Australia, the UK, South Africa. So we're definitely having an impact in a lot of different locations too. And for us, it makes it easier when we refer to a system or a product or at least a type of technology, people are familiar with it, especially when we're going outside the US. So that makes a big difference. So that's a good thing. All right. How about contact info for you? What's your website for people to
it's
go to?
www.reuzip.com. You can contact us at email at info@reuzip.com.
All right. Any last question here? Any upcoming trade shows we can find yet?
I think next one we'll be at ServPros trade show, their big one in Tampa Bay in June.
That's their
Okay.
national conference. That might be more exclusive to them, but yeah, nothing on the schedule just yet. We've been focusing a lot this year on the new products that we got coming out, but we'll be back in the circuit again probably next year.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us. I know it's a big time difference. I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast, but I do appreciate you being here. And we'll do this again when you can tell us about some of the other super secret stuff that's coming out.
No, we'd love that.
We appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lance.
Okay, everybody, we are back at the Experience Trade Show in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I have a guest here with us that was actually attending some of our lectures earlier today. And it's Evie. And Evie's come a long way to this show and to come and talk with us. So Evie, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Hi from down under. This is Evie Sims from Bulk Sorting. Come from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm really happy to be here.
Well, we're glad you're here. And, you know, you were with us this morning in the lectures where we talked about marketing mycotoxins, which I know you had said offline when we were talking. It's something new in Australia.
Yes, it is. It's something that has really been there. There's a lot of controversials about it, and it will be really good to get some more information on this so that we can actually debunk some of the myths that's out there.
Well, from what we talked about, it's pretty unregulated out in Australia. They don't really have legislation for licensing and stuff like that.
Yeah, not yet. Hey, hopefully, hey, one day. That's
your goal.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we had talked, we can, you know, try to work with you and get training out there. And we've worked with people in Australia before. A matter of fact, one of the labs that we use is out of Australia.
That's amazing. It's really good it's good to know that we've got that technology, and yet we're not harnessing the opportunity to really understand a lot more about what's affecting a lot of homeowners, a lot of people that lives in rental properties, and the government actually understands a little bit about that because they had the biotoxin review. However, we kind of just stayed stagnant at a point. So I've been really wanting to find a way that we can bounce that conversation back up. And at the end of the day, it is the people that's suffering. So we need to help them.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm doing this 20 years here in the States, and the shift in licensing requirements and better training, it's a slow process, but we're getting there. And it sounds like Australia is getting to the point where they're looking to start doing that. And especially with people like you interested.
Yeah, I think there is a bigger call and bigger demand for it. I think one of the Normie presentation by Michael Pinto, he was talking about that mode's been here for a long time. You know, all the science that we talked about is now actually 25 year on is actually proven to be to be, to be true. Some of the restoration people are doing actually the correct things. So we're now beginning to understand a lot more about what that is. So we need to just step up a little bit more, bring that back home, my home, and then establish a lot more ways that can benefit not just because people are suffering, homes are not being mitigated properly, and that's a problem, hey?
Well, let's change gears here for a second. And it's what, 25 hours traveling from where you came from to get here?
Bit keen, eh?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
29 hours in total.
Okay then. So what brought you here?
So I'm here to start a Bulks Holdings Australia as a Bulks Holding USA LLC. So we sell restoration dehumidification systems with a company that's in UK, EcoPro. EcoPro's been in US for about a year too, but however, they haven't really been into restoration industry. I'm hoping to bring some education, some sort of new formats that's coming in here, and just help the restorers, homeowners, and whoever wants, some understanding on dehumidification desiccant units.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's a synergy between what we do here in the States, what you're doing here in the States from Australia, and the UK, where we also have been doing training.
Yeah.
So we're in the same territory. So this could be a very interesting gathering that we're starting to put together here.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go to Australia.
Well, I think we should.
Well, I think it's
That's
something that you may hear about in the near future. So
Well, that's it.
we actually have a phone number in Australia.
Yeah.
No, a direct line to Normie from Australia. It's there.
What's your direct line?
I don't have it now, but
Yeah.
it's an Australian number. So it's
Yeah.
local to Australia.
So we'll get that number and we'll post it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that people can reach out to Normie. In Australia, trainings will come.
Yes.
And we'll be there. And so licensing format of some sort should be coming. So interesting points, eh?
All right. Well, we'll continue this discussion.
Yes,
Thank you.
will do. Thank you.
We will be back in a little bit with our.
Hey, restorers, thanks for checking out a quick bonus episode of the Restoration Today podcast. I love keeping up with Normie and what's going on with Normie because when it comes to technology and innovation, Lance Eisen, who is their VP of Business Development, knows what's up. And his tech savviness is just beyond me and my little podcast here. So I'm excited to be joined by Lance for a few minutes here to talk about Normie Connect and what that is. And it's going to be a different way that restorers and cleaners and IAQ pros can keep up with everything that's going on in the industry, pretty much any possible way that you want to keep up with it. So Lance, thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to have you introduce yourself first. And I'm also curious how you got so tech savvy in the first place. Like did this start as a hobby and now you just know of all the radio platforms and podcast platforms and all these, carrying your own internet with you and building TVs and monitors? I mean, my mind is blown. So go ahead and introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background and how you got here.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And I don't even know where to start with my background because it's kind of really diverse from this industry. I started with a law enforcement career for 25 years, emergency medical technician. It's kind of how I got into the technology side. And I think I've become a technology junkie at this point, on the 12-step program, I think, to cure this. But, I actually do a training about technology. And one of the taglines is don't fear the technology, embrace it. Because if you've been doing this industry for 20, 30 years, that's great, but it's changing. And kicking and screaming, we all got to go there, just to be able to keep up.
Yep.
I recently got into a discussion with somebody about automation and how automation was going to replace all the workers. And I said, that's not really true. And if you look at, I use the automobile industry as an example. They used to have assembly lines with people building cars. Then they automated and brought robots in to build the cars, and they replaced all of those workers with people now that have to fix all the robots and program the robots and do all. So the manpower demand is still there. If not, it's grown, but it's a technology change. You got to stay with it or try anyways.
I totally agree. That was the biggest emerging trend in the State of Industry report that came out, is was related to AI, which is a little same, little different, whatever. But technology is growing so fast, and people are definitely paying attention. So, all right. So, explain what Normie Connect is for people who are not familiar with it.
Normie Connect is a concept that really came out of discussions like we're having now. I've talked with a lot of people, and there always seems to be a disconnect of information. People are starving for information. That's why they go to the internet. The problem is when you go to the internet, there's no validation as to what you're getting, and you have to try to figure out where to go. So we looked at what we do and what we've been doing with Normie TV for about 5 years. And people seem to be really enjoying getting their media through video. So we figured, let's take it to the next step. And we started to produce as much video content as we could on Normie TV or normie.tv. Well, the next step to that would be answering the question that a lot of people have: why aren't you on YouTube? Why aren't you on Twitch? Why aren't you here? And people have their preferences.
Yep.
People drive Chevys, Fords, Mercedes. They have their preference. So we figured, let's put it out there so people can consume media with the flavor they prefer. And Normie Connect is really the concept of putting all the different platforms and types of media together and putting the media out there for people to consume. We are on, at the moment, 15 streaming TV channels. All the popular ones. There's even some non-popular ones that are out there. A lot of international stuff. We just added another one today as we're doing this, 6 radio streaming platforms. The one we added today boasts 50 million users a month.
Wow.
Those are massive numbers. Well, it sounds big, but YouTube is 1.2 billion users a month.
Yeah.
Twitch is 150 million users a month. I mean, the numbers are astronomical as to how much media is consumed on these platforms. And we're on 13, 14 as of today podcast platforms. So wherever you want to go, you can just do a search on Normie or Normie Connect, and you can consume the media that we're putting out there.
Okay, so from somebody who understands a little bit of the logistics of background technology like this, are you having to separately put stuff on all of these different platforms? There must be some connectivity, but it sounds like a lot to manage in the background.
There's a lot of new technology making the technology possible.
Okay.
It's kind of like they couldn't develop faster computers because they needed slower computers to develop the paths to get to faster computers. So that's kind of where we're at. We're using technology to push the technology. With that being said, I run in my office, I'm actually running 8 computers with 10 screens. So this is managing multiple TV platforms, multiple Zoom meetings like we're doing right now, radio broadcasting, all going on at the same time, all run through the office here. I mean, the biggest challenge I had was having to bring in additional internet connectivity capabilities to run all the equipment. Other than that, it's really automation helping the automation.
8 computers and 10 screens. That sounds, awful. So better you than me.
Well, you can get a tan sitting here,
I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Radiation or something. There's something happening.
But,
okay, so go ahead.
But you have to understand, some of these computers were called microcomputers. Actually, 3 of them I actually built. They're called Raspberry Pis. That's actually the type of computer. It runs on a Linux operating system. The entire computer is the size of a pack of cigarettes.
Huh.
and it just says things that you plug in. I have multiple monitors running off of them, external memory hooked into them, keyboards, wireless mice, all hooked into this little box the size of a pack of cigarettes. So I have several of those running for monitoring. I don't need big computers and a lot of horsepower for that. So, we're using different types of automation, different types of computers to make sure things are running smoothly. I know if one of my 7-inch monitors goes down, well, there's a problem with whatever was streaming to that, and it's easy to fix.
That's impressive. And I'm going to Google Raspberry
Pi.
Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
Thank
You will be absolutely astonished to the usage of what they do with those things now.
I'm going to research that after. Okay, so what kind of content is on Normie Connect? Why should people be listening in? And talk to, what's there for restorers? What's there for cleaners? What's there for IAQ pros? Because I know that you have a lot of different conversations and different content that's on there. So talk about how there's kind of something for everybody and what's there.
Well, if you look at Normie Connect from a distance, it's all about indoor air quality, IAQ. Everything that you just mentioned comes under IAQ, indoor air quality. It's everything from the remediation to the assessment to the dry out companies, rug cleaners, air conditioning companies, duct cleaners. It's all indoor air quality. Chemistry that we use, it's all indoor air quality. So that is the general market under indoor air quality. Now we split that into multiple categories. The two biggest ones are the consumer and the contractor. Our content is really based for both. And that's a fine line to walk, but we feel it's necessary because the contractors are dealing with a more educated consumer now. They're going out on the internet, they're finding out what is real, what kind of work should be done. And we're trying to keep it where this is the industry standard. These are the best practices. This is what is expected by insurance companies. Both sides, consumer and contractor, need to know that. You should never be working for a customer that knows more about your industry than you do.
No. No.
And for those of you that are out there that have done work, assessment work especially, or inspection type work for a customer, and you find out that, an hour into your assessment that they're a microbiologist, it's surprising that they may know more than you. So we try to put the information out there to even the playing field for everybody. You have your industry standards, you have your educated consumer, you have your educated contractor. It's the one big sandbox, and it just makes it so much easier for everybody.
Yes, totally agree. Okay, so people are interested in engaging with Normie Connect. You can go to normie.org or normie.org and look at the top and find Normie Connect at the top, or normie.org/connect. A couple ways you can find it. But what if people are what are the most popular platforms? Let's say people are listening to this from their phone or driving in their car. What's the fastest way to start engaging?
Well, the easiest way is to go to normieconnect.com. That takes you right to the main page. That gives you all your options. You can also go to normie.org, like you mentioned, and we have the Normie Connect menu option, which will let you pick if you want streaming TV, streaming radio, podcasts. You can get the Normie app, which is app.normie.org, which gives you access to all of the Normie Connect features. So we're trying to make it convenient. And it's funny you had mentioned about Normie Radio, because we went in that direction because we heard from a lot of our people that they want to listen to us, especially when we're doing live broadcasts, but they're driving in their vehicle. And watching Zoom or trying to do something on Zoom while you're driving is dangerous, to say the least.
Yes. Yep.
So what we did was we went to an audio only platform, and we now broadcast audio only on the radio platforms, and there's 6 different ones. These are the most common ones out there. Well, Normie Radio, that's the easiest one to get to. There's Radio Garden, Radio.net, MyTuner, Live Online Radio, and they all boast, millions and millions of followers across their platforms. So whichever you prefer, we're there. And because it's streaming audio only, even weaker signals are received very well. You don't have to worry about freezing video and everything else. So in your car, walking around with a headset, that is the easiest way to listen to our content.
Okay.
24/7.
How do you find all these new platforms to get your podcasts and TV and radio and all that on? I mean, you were talking about 2 that you just added today, and you have dozens now at this point between all of the different ways that people can engage in media. So how do you find these?
Well, besides the research and looking for them, we're now starting to see which the platform that I added today, they found us.
Oh,
These are streaming platforms that are podcast platforms and streaming video. And they reached out to us, basically. I got a invitation a few days ago saying, please add your channel. And we did. They do an approval process on it. And our podcast came up earlier today, and our radio channel just came up. So I guess they watch other radio platforms and they start to notice new add-ons, and that's how we found this latest one. Other than that, I do the research for it and looking for different platforms, and it fills a need.
I love it. It's impressive. Every time we talk, you have some multiple new places that you have content streaming on. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you want people to know before we wrap it up?
Yeah, the Normie app is something I would just want to talk about real quick. And to get to that, it's app.normie.org. And that'll give you your options of downloading it from either the iPhone store, the Google Play Store. It's out there. You can just search on Normie, or if you go to our app page, the direct links are there. Everything that we've just talked about, the radio, the TV, that's all on the app. Plus, we have other free trainings on the app that are available. I even have some games out there, indoor air quality games or adventures that you get to go through. I think there's 8 or 9 of them out there now. I see a smile on your face. Is that your afternoon planned ahead of us here?
It is probably now. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's very simple. There's a training option there. You hit training, and then you'll see Normie Adventures. It's right there, and they're easy. It's not something that you're going to bang your head against the desk trying to figure out, but I don't think you've seen anything like this anyplace before, especially with indoor air quality.
Okay, I'm going to check it out. Now I do know what my afternoon plans are. Maybe I'll have my son do it. He's very tech savvy. I like it. Okay, Lance, well, thank you very much for being here. Again, you can go to normieconnect.com or normie.org. Any way you search it on your favorite platform, it's probably there. So just search it there too. I'm sure it's going to be there.
Absolutely.
Lance, congrats on all the innovating. It's truly impressive. I'm always amazed at all of the things that you're doing. And thanks to all that Normie does as well. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
The following broadcast is made possible by supporters of the Normie Environmental Task Force, the Experience Trade Show and Convention, Reusip, EnviroScreening Lab, and Best Living Systems.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Balzano, group publisher at BMP Media with R&R and the Experience Events, and welcome to episode 2 of Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience, our weekly venture into the great event that we're running right now, and we're so proud to be here. Joining me is my partner in crime, the editor-in-chief of R&R, the lovely Mildred Ingram, as always. And I'm so proud. Our guest today He's an educator, a business owner, a speaker, a leader, a husband, a father. He's a microbial warrior. He is a gymnast, I just found out.
What? And a
Let's get
writer.
started. Hold on. He's a 50-year industry veteran. He's been to more experiences than I ever will. And he's just a good guy. Please welcome Barry Costa.
All right.
Hey!
I know.
Well, you know, gymnast, that's in my a long time ago. Now rounds in official shape, not found on a Wheaties box, and that's me now.
Hey, once you have it in you, you can still do it.
Oh yeah.
That's the joke, right? What do you mean? I am in shape. I'm round, right?
Yeah, there you go. There we go. And Mildred, you will visit me in the hospital if I try to do it again.
Oh no.
Barry, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. You know what? I want to, we're gonna get to talk about the experience in depth, I promise. But I was looking back at your career for the three people who don't know. It's amazing. You've really done so much. When did you get started with the Costa Group?
With a cost group. Well, actually, I had a cost group in Peterborough, New Hampshire, when Carol and I lived out on the East Coast. And then about 11 years ago, we moved to Arizona. And so it's been in existence for quite a few years. Prior to that, I had the Carpet and Cleaning Craftsman, carpet cleaning, restoration, carpet installation company that I was doing right along as well. And prior to that, it was my dad's company, Cost Group. Let's see, no, Costa Carpet Company Incorporated. You got to have your C's in order, right? And learn how to walk, keep back on my knees again. And that's how it all started when I was 12 years old.
That's amazing. Then you were a public school teacher as well for 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. I taught at the elementary school in Peterborough, New Hampshire, and very proud to say I was Teacher of the Year with the New Hampshire Physical Education Association. So it's kind of nice. I really enjoyed it. The kids were great, and the parents were awesome.
That's wonderful. And then eventually you joined like you said, your dad's company.
Yeah.
And here we are. It's 2023, just like that, right? It seems
it was amazing. We smashed the atoms together. I was a school teacher, but I had been doing this my whole life. And in fact, I talked to my sister this past week. She came to Thanksgiving with us here in Arizona. And she said, Mom was so upset. We spent all that money to put you through Springfield College to be a school teacher. Then you started a carpet cleaning company again. I said, but look what I did to it. I smashed the atoms together. Now I'm teaching in the industry that I love. And absolutely, it's not even work, it's play, as Nick Palella used to say. So
we've talked to a couple people on this interview. Yeah, indeed. We've talked to a few people on this interview and off the interview for sure. And they always seem to have the same. I said, well, gosh, you had a different background. What led you to restoration and all this? And they said, it's just the industry. We're helping people and we love doing it. And you can just see from your facial expression how passionate.
Well, yeah, helping people, that's what it's all about. I look at society today and I'm going, this is not the society I want for my son. Why aren't people really coming together and helping? Even Lincoln said a house divided will fall. And look at how much further we could be if everybody just helped a little bit and supported each other rather than step on each other. But so I'm not going to be a victim. I want to try to lead and hopefully get a lot of people along with me and others that are already doing it and make a difference.
That's what, I'm not surprised to hear that. It's wonderful. And that's the kind of guy. I've known you for a year. And honestly, you're one of the best people I know already.
Then you don't know very many people, do you, Michael? I mean,
I feel you're in the top 5 for sure.
No, very
great. Now, how many experience events have you been to?
All of them except the very first, which was the Luxor, way back in 1999. And that was actually when it was Connections, and 4 associations came together to create that first meeting of connecting people together. And but every experience I've been to.
That's amazing. And your role it's probably changed quite a bit throughout the years, I would think.
Oh gosh, it really has. And working with Larry Cooper all those years, Larry and I have been best friends for so long, and I'm really happy to see him move now in another direction. He's going to build some new things. he wants the baby that they grew obviously to grow, and it's in great hands with you guys. That's why I said when you asked, hey Barry, would you mind helping us? Absolutely. I mean, it's all about the event, and part of that event was being with your friends and doing things with your friends. But yeah, I've been involved in every one of them, the experiences, and each one is its own unique energy. It's hard to describe, and it's so funny how themes begin to grow out of them with each one.
Almost naturally. And I've only been to two. Like, absolutely. They do naturally grow. Yeah. It's the people. It's the people.
It really is. And it's the energy that develops within the event all in itself. And seeing people you haven't seen for at least 6 months or a year. And some of the best education happens literally when people get together and they start sharing, hey, this is happening. Have you ever had that happen? And, you know, what do you do? And it isn't just the events that are organized by the organizers of the event. It's the side events that go on that really make it worthwhile as well.
Yep.
This year, as everybody knows, there are 2 experience events each year. The next one coming up April 3rd through the 5th at the Chattanooga Convention Center in lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee. Registration is open now. Sign up to be an attendee and be at this event. Early bird rates go until the 31st of January. rnrmagonline.com, our website. That's where you can find all the event information and sign up yourself. So let's talk about some memories, Barry. I know we talked a little bit off camera. Any you want to discuss or point out that we should know to the people?
Oh gosh. Well, let's see. I'm going to look at it. I put some trivia questions here and stuff. In fact, like I said, in 1999, the first show that happened was, well, let's step back even further than that. Prior to the connections and or the experience being developed, associations used to have their own mini conventions. I remember John Masuri, who was Ohio Steamway, Dick Hook out of Michigan. These gentlemen were the pioneers of doing schools in our industry, and the various associations would put on their own convention. Well, think as a vendor now. You've spent an awful lot of money to support the association, their convention, but you only have an audience of about 50 people for traffic. Well, when you look at the ROI on that, it's not very nice, but yet the vendors were always there to support the associations, and I was so impressed. So 4 associations, some history here, 4 associations came together, they met, and that birthed the first connections in 1999 at the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. From that, it grew into a bigger amoeba with lots more pseudopodia sticking out there. And then there was a change in guard. Larry Cooper came in. He was managing the Connections events, but then they switched and it became the Experience with Meetings and Events running it. And from there, history's in its wake here. But I think some of the greatest memories, well, there were times when sadly people passed away. And during that event, people celebrated the life of those people. Some real icons of our industry, Cy Gant, for instance, from the carpet industry itself. He was on the board of the IICRC as well. And Tom Hill once told me, when Cy speaks, be quiet and listen. This is a man of great knowledge. We also had celebrations of Bill Yaden and Colleen's anniversary at one of them. But then we also had retirements when Jeff Bishop retired, Tom Hill, his wife Carol Lee, Lindsay Barlow, they all retired. We also had a celebration during the event for these people. So if you didn't know the people in the background that actually ran our industry, you had a chance to meet them up front, personal. And some of the events, oh my God, the first Flood House, and we always made it a show. We had this one time. A set of stairs. We had a toilet up at the top and 2 55-gallon buckets of water waiting that nobody could see behind the curtain. You know, it's like the Wizard of Oz here. And we hired a person who went up the stairs in a bathrobe, and he's singing. He was all mic'd up. He's singing. This is how we allowed people into the trade show. They walk over, they're watching this guy, just hamming it up like crazy. He sat down on the toilet broke. He fell down the stairs because he was a professional. All the water's coming with him, and that's how we introduced the flood house. So we've always tried to have a great time with people and set the tone of it isn't just education, guys. You know, we work our tails off. Let's get together. Let's have a great time. Let's have a party. And yeah, let's learn too while we're at it.
When was that? When was the first flood house?
Where was the first flood house? You would ask me that. I think it was. I think it was at the Hilton. Okay, because we in the order we went from the Luxor to the Riviera. The Riviera was always known as being smoky. We didn't really like that.
It's
place.
a lot.
We were there once. Then the Hilton, Las Vegas Hilton. Then we went to the Mirage, Paris, and now we're at Caesars Forum, as we will be in September. I think it's what are the dates, Mike, for September?
September 4th through the 6th, the day after
4 to
Labor
6,
Day.
yeah. And it's going to be at the same location as we were last year. But there's been a flood house at every one of those events in Vegas, starting with the Hilton, at least. And we've had it ever since. And then even the pavilions have increased in size. We've had vendors like Phoenix and Normie building their things. Clean Right in the center field of the trade show would do some hands-on. So, you know, everyone wants hands-on. Come to the show. You're going to get plenty.
That's the experience. That's the experience.
Well, you know what? I'm going to step back. I hope you don't mind me dominating here for a second.
No,
you asked about a memorable time. It all of a sudden clicked. It was really interesting. In fact, I sent you a few files of the history of the event. At the Hilton, up on the 28th floor, there were 3, huge rooms. They were the best rooms in the hotel. And we didn't I interviewed the Hilton staff to find out if they had some problems with their carpets that could be fixed. So they sent me a bunch, and we actually took a crew of people during the event, went up and did live repairs on their carpet. And I had people who have never touched the tools before doing these repairs, sweating bullets. But I told them, no matter what you do, I can undo it and fix it. So I'm not worried about that. But the Hilton got a couple $1,000s worth of free repairs by allowing us to use their facility live. And we did that also in Clearwater Beach and a bunch of places where they were getting free repairs, free carpet cleaning and things, getting people to actually do their trade in the building, surrounded by experts in the field to kind of give them some hints or tricks of the trade to solve some problems. So that was really fun.
Amazing.
That was really fun.
Amazing.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Off camera, before we started, you were telling me a story about Clearwater also about, and we were discussing how it just everybody loved going there, but we just got too big. And but you said something about when the flood was going to happen, but it's going to happen.
Clearwater Beach, Florida. Everybody loved the white sand and the camaraderie ship. And isn't it great that a show outgrows the venue? But every single year, we knew that at some time during the event, we were going to have a water damage in the trade show because Florida, obviously, towels required 24/7, but you always had rain in the early afternoon, late afternoon, and we would have a crew every year have to dry out a portion of the trade show, which was in the garage below the hotel, and it would flood out annually. So we already, by the second time it happened, we already lined up, okay, you're going to supply the air movers, you're bringing the truck. But we had a crew ready to go.
Yeah, if only there were people that knew how to dry and clean and restore here. Oh wait,
you might think there'd be a few, but go figure. We're going to teach about this, and we got live activity with it. But the sign of a good show is when things go on in the background that aren't planned for, but the participants never know about it. So you're hearing about it now because we never let people know that the place got water damage. You had a crew down there drying it up overnight and things like this, but because that happens in shows. And R&R, you guys are going to do awesome. Look, little tidbits of things are going to come up, and you just deal with them. You move on, and you always have a smile on your face.
We appreciate that, Barry.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. We went into this whole situation. It's been about a year now since we've been working with the Coopers and now our own. And with our team, we instructed everybody. We don't even know close to everything. In fact, let's learn everything we can as long as we can and keep learning. And that's not just an experience thing. That's in life, right?
You know what? You never stop learning. The moment you do,
Right.
you should be 6 feet under.
Yeah,
And what you know what's exciting about this, Mike and Mildred, is that Larry, Trina, Jennifer, Jill, the whole staff, they were a phenomenal group, a phenomenal team, fun friends. They're more my family than sometimes my family.
Yeah.
And we absolutely enjoyed working together. But, you know, Ralph Bloss said, change is inevitable, growth is optional. And I think Walt Disney was quoted as saying the same thing. Of course, I'll give Ralph credit.
Yeah.
But bottom line, folks, now that R&R has the show, I can't wait to see what's going to come now. I mean, new ideas, expansion of what R&R brings to the show. The sky's like the limit of how this can evolve into something that, like every year, kept evolving to get better and better and better. I think the Coopers simply handed the baton to you and said, keep it going, baby, because we worked hard to bring it to here, and no one wants to see their baby fall apart. Even in business, when you sell your company, you don't want to see it to go in the hole. You want to see it grow. And that's why I'm here helping. Sean's helping. A lot of the people that have helped the Coopers are here helping because it's about the show. We loved working with our friends, but it's about the show. It's about giving back to the industry, which is the first statement you said about giving back. So let's keep this puppy rolling, and I can't wait to see the ideas you guys come up with.
We're doing our best. It's definitely, we're walking a tightrope on. We want some new ideas. We definitely want to continue with the great traditions that were given to us too. And
that's right.
And then that's okay. And that's why, as you mentioned, every year was new ideas coming from the Coopers and whatnot. We're going to try things like that as well. But
yeah,
you'll see floods. You'll see cleaning areas. We'll see the whole. Trust me. Like I remember talking to Normie last year on the floor, and people are like, oh, they're going to change the name. They're like, no, come on. We're not going to do any of that. we're just going to take what's working and go. Let me ask you something, Barry. It's been ingrained into me for last year that hands-on is the key to this. And that's the one thing that differentiates the experience from everything else. What are other reasons that you would know people would be, in addition to that people need to get to experience events, either of them?
Well, you know what? It's actually great that you asked that, because when you look back at the days of the Riviera, the first shows, it was mainly about cleaning. And then restoration, especially water, with the writing of S500. In fact, we had a session where we had the consensus body members at the show, and a good 3-hour program reviewing the new standard. And people in the audience could ask questions to the actual writers of why it says what it says, blah, 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 blah. And the doors were wide open. Well, at that point, the show then expanded from cleaning to add a lot of restoration. And then it kept adding more and more and more until Larry came up with the tracks of management, cleaning, restoration, remediation. Jeff Jones comes in. Abra came in before Jeff many years ago to do a biohazard situation, but Jeff came in and just wowed everyone with a Microbial Warrior presentation. And then we tried the cage. And it sounds like the cage.
Yeah, not familiar. We need to hear about this.
In this cage, we had like a 3-ring circus, a center area, like a circus, outside areas, and there were multiple activities going on at the same time. Then we added contests to it. So yeah, the continual evolution, but hands-on is what everyone wants to have. And what R&R is going to be able to bring, I believe, is you're connected with many more industries outside of cleaning, restoration. You're connected with the installation community. You're connected in so many venues that and a lot of us, like I said, I grew up installing carpet, not cleaning it. We started cleaning in 1970. So what I think R&R is going to be able to do, like Larry and Trina were doing, and Jennifer, expanding the tracks, is you're going to theoretically be able to continue to expand the tracks as to what is hot in the industry right now. Case in point, World Floor Covering Association and CFI. Their number one challenge is getting people to become carpet installers, flooring installers. You can make all the greatest materials in the world, but if you don't have a workforce to install it, what good is making it? So CFI, I just noticed again, they've got for 100 people, they're putting out they're giving people tuition to training for the first 100 people. So that's an example. And you guys with your magazine, you're so connected with so many groups and people. Larry's big thing was he always wanted to keep expanding the science, expanding the knowledge, and look at the opportunities R&R has right now with the connections you have with people that have never been to the experience. So it's always nice to have new speakers, new concepts, new thoughts. And that's why I'm so excited about the baton being handed to you guys, that it's going to be successful. It can't fail. With that positive energy and the outreach you have, let's make it happen.
Yeah,
that's great.
Won't let it.
You know, it's all year long. Mildred and I have been talking, and we've been talking to our coworkers and the industry about, you know, we got to find a way to usher in the next generation. And every time I start talking about that, I feel like some of our veteran people give me, "What do you mean?" And I have to pull out my AARP card. I go, "No, I don't need to be what I'm saying we need to be the mentor to the next generation. Bring them in. And I talked to Jeff Jones and some other people who speak almost every time about our experiences, and said maybe we'll wait till Las Vegas. Let's get a couple new people, and there's new ideas and new things in here, and I want to make sure they're not offended, and they get it completely. We need them around, like you and me and Jeff and all those people.
Well, like you said, the constant expansion. Normie brought in a Spanish track for those that Espanol is their primary language. You're absolutely correct, Michael. We have new people come in that aren't seasoned veterans in the industry. This show to them is one huge, I'm lost. It's kind of like surface. I'm lost. There's so many things going on. So some guidance for them to say, hey, welcome into the industry. We recommend you do this. If you've never done this work, we've got from the basics to the most seasoned veterans activities going on. And where do you fit? And maybe a mentor program where you have people that'll tag along with these people to get them introduced to other people out there. I mean, it goes with the name, connections initially, and what an experience. And we want that to always be a positive, formidable experience for people.
That's wonderful. Mildred, any questions?
No, definitely not.
On the spot?
No questions. No questions. I've already asked a couple of questions that I had.
April 3rd.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
No,
April 3rd to the 5th. And April 3rd to the 5th, Chattanooga Convention Center, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Spell out r&rmagonline.com. It's our website. I wish I could change that, but that's okay. That's our URL.
That's it.
That's okay. We'll have links and we'll go to it. So early bird rates until the 1st of January. This is great. Barry will be there. Mildred will be there. I'll be there. We're all going to be there. Why don't you? What's keeping you from coming? We're going to have a good time. I think that we're doing as a good.
Yeah, no, listen, Barry. I wouldn't miss it. I wouldn't miss it at all. It should be a great time. And for everyone listening to this podcast, unless you've been involved at this level of organizing an event like this, you have no clue the energy and work that goes in. So it's exciting to work with this new family that I'm with right now. The Coopers, I want to be a Cooper because they brought all their grandkids to Annie, and that had to cost an arm and a leg. But you know what? I love Larry and Trina, and Larry's like my brother, and it's so nice because look, we're not getting younger, we're getting older, his focus right now is on his kids, his grandkids, where it should be. And they're still active. They've got a new venture they're opening up with wellness and health, and it's only going to succeed for them as well. Just like this baton is going to succeed with R&R. So thanks for allowing me to play with you guys in the event. Hopefully I bring a little seasoning of experience that I can, hey, that's a great idea. No, we already did that. Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
But you know what? It might work this time.
I've told you 100 times we need your brain, Barry, badly.
Oh,
So it's like a scarecrow occasionally over here. But I got a trick question I'll leave you with. This is a hard one for somebody of your stature, but do you have a favorite moment, experience moment that you can think of? What, that was my funny or whatever? I'll never forget that. I know. I should have warned you about that.
Well, you know what? I have to be selfish for once in my life, okay? Because Clean Facts did an article and asked 4 questions, and it was all about giving. But I'm going to take the moment to receive at this moment. I think the biggest moment for me, we had just lost our daughter to cancer, Kim, back in the year 2000. And in the background, there was so much activity going on with not only the staff, but the convention itself, the vendors, friends, colleagues. We raised $28,000 for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society during that event. And my heart was so touched. And I put together a PowerPoint presentation for my daughter's funeral. And they allowed me to actually present it at the experience. And I started crying. I just told everybody, you're my family. You're my family. And so with Chattanooga and Vegas, hey, I want to see my family because none of us know when it's going to be our turn next. So wouldn't it be a shame that we missed that opportunity to be together again and tell people I love you, tell people let's support each other, let's make a difference in the world. And as my daughter would say, her 5th life lesson, touch as many lives as you can. And when she said those words, she was staring at her dad. So she basically told me what my purpose of being on the earth is. And I appreciate you allowing me to share this because this is how open I try to be with everyone. And if it's positive, I hope it rubs off. If it's negative, then I'm so sorry because it is what it is. I am who I am. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. And but I really, really want things to go so positive for everybody. And together we have so much more power. So I'll see you all in Tennessee and Vegas. Let's party hard and let's work hard.
Yeah, you have my word. That's what we're going to do. And thank you for sharing that with all of us, Barry. Really, just being around you, you exude positivity and optimism, and so I'm glad you took the time to join us today and be a part of the show, being part of the events in general. It's just a huge, really, really thank you.
Well, thank you.
I think that's it. I think that's episode 2 is in the can, as they say in the industry. Trade Talks, Unlocking the Experience. I'm Mike Balzano, Mildred Ingram, and our guest, Barry Costa. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Okay, we are back with Jeff Jones. And Jeff, we were talking a few minutes ago and our system dropped out, so we had to come back in here. And that's the good thing about doing this stuff live. So I'm going to ask you one more time just to describe what you do so we can make sure everybody hears it, because I don't think they did before.
Okay, well, I'm Jeff Jones again, and I've been in the restoration industry for over 55 years. I literally grew up in it, and I've been doing forensic restoration for right at 53 years. Forensic restoration is defined as the comprehensive remediation of microenvironments. That's a term that was first coined by Dr. Michael Berry, a former director with the EPA, in his wonderful book, Protecting the Built Environment. But forensic restoration is the comprehensive remediation of microenvironments that have been contaminated or suspected to be contaminated from biological materials or hazardous materials. So that could come from homicide, suicide, accidental, or a natural death. Any one of those can become an unattended death leading to advanced human decomposition. We know this now, that human decomposition begins approximately 4 minutes after death, but it could be a synthetic contaminant like tear gas, which is specifically made to be a human irritant.
It's CN, correct?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. There's more than one type of tear gas, but that's predominantly what is used today. And then we have other synthetics contaminants like fentanyl and carfentanil, definitely the most dangerous contaminants of our lives right now. And then we're also working on training protocols to respond to, because unfortunately it's not a if this is going to happen, it's a when is this going to happen, biological WMDs. But Microbial Warrior, that's our training program, and Normie actually mirror each other so much, because we're both dealing with biological contaminants. And I believe that both really, our tactical approach pretty much is the same. We want to contain, control, neutralize, and remove the contaminant safely based on science.
Well, like you said, we're very similar. You as an organization go into much more detail on the forensic side. And again, you're talking about crime scene cleanup, which is a whole different sector of the industry. Yes, it's remediation, but not due to a microbial problem. And then when you get into the chemistry side of it, like fentanyl, we're dealing more of a hazmat situation.
Correct.
More so than even lead and asbestos. I mean, this is something that just by touch can enter your system and seriously affect your health. So your training is very specialized with that. I know when I was talking with Lori earlier today, and we talked about some of the teaching that she does, she was talking about using real life situations where your classes, you're using blood to clean up. She had this kind of like smirk on her face when she said animal brains and things like that, because it makes
That's
it real.
my wife.
It makes it realistic.
Well, it has to be. And to me, that's not really a big deal that we use real biological contaminants. And now I see that, there's some other trainers going out, and they're saying, we use real blood. I'm like, well, that's not very stimulating to me. That's like saying we've got a water class and we're using real water. You should train to what you're going to go and engage.
Absolutely.
In. This is, of course, microbial warfare. And so we want to go out and deal as close to combat situations as we can and make it realistic. Some people think they want to do this, and then they find out really fast they can't even perform under simulated microbial warrior conditions.
Well, I know things like the odor bothers people,
Sure.
And that's something that can make people sick and leave the environment. But I was over by your booth earlier, and you guys somehow talked me into putting a helmet on, which is a breathing apparatus that replaces masks. With the positive pressure in there, I think that's like eliminating the odor problem, isn't it?
Sure. If you put an OV filter on that, and a lot of people use those. I don't. Okay. I grew up, you never forget the smell of death.
No.
Okay. But let me be honest. My clients are not going to be wearing one when they walk in at the end of a job. I need to know what this smells like.
Oh, understood.
And we do not use deodorizers in any fashion or form. We use no masking agents. If you have an odor, you have a source. What's the general rule? Remove the source, you'll remove the odor.
Correct. And if you're using a masking agent, never mind hiding the odor itself, you're creating more of a VOC or chemical problem in the environment.
Absolutely. So we need to think about, not only what are we cleaning and why? What's the source of contaminant? Is it mold? Is it biologicals? Is it blood? Is it human decomposition? What is the contaminant? But also, how are we leaving that? What type of chemicals are we using? And, we saw just insanity during COVID. People were going in and spraying everything under the sun with no forethought of how's that going to affect that surface in the long term.
Correct. And again, if any of you aren't sure about the timeline, that's when the world ran out of toilet paper, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, panicking, people not knowing what to do, and that's what happens.
Well, you know what? I did an interview on COVID on January 3rd. 2020. And at that time, when I did the interview, there were 2.5 cases in the United States. And I had the numbers, it was like, oh, there's 17 in Italy. And
Right.
that's how low it was at that time. So there are 2.5 cases. 2 were in a nursing home in Washington State, and the 0.5 was in Chicago because they had not been declared positive yet.
Right.
So a couple weeks later, we got a call for a very large scale unattended death in a 2-story condo, and everything had to be emptied out. Everything had to be deconned. Everything had to be cleaned. Everything had to be disinfected. Everything had to be tested. And it took us 3.5 days to do that. There was a lot of contents, and it was really bad. At the end of it, because this was just inside of Texas, we drove back at the end of the day, and I walked into the kitchen. I said, oh, I need to go get some creamer because I want some coffee in the morning. And I hadn't been to a store during the duration. I walked into the store and I was like, what happened? Well, because I was focused on my job.
Yeah.
Like, all the toilet paper was gone. All the soup was gone. I was like,
yeah,
what happened? People just lost their minds.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you ever saw it. It's a, short video that they play online every once in a while about the got to get the bread and milk.
Yeah,
guy running around panicking because it's going to snow.
Yeah,
It's the same thing. I gotta get the bread and milk, and just pure panic. And a lot of that was hyped with the media.
Of
We knew
course.
that was a problem. But COVID, like a lot of other things, was a serious situation. Have you ever dealt with things where you had to wear, I guess it's called a level 4 suit, where you're basically built into the suit?
We are at level 3 when we're working on that. Okay. If I were to put on that level of protection, SCBAs and stuff, that means I'm working on a full blown, something like a fentanyl distribution center.
Right.
And so, we have 3 levels of contaminants when we're dealing with 3 threat levels when we're dealing with the remediation of fentanyl. Definitely the most dangerous contaminant of our lives. Oh, but don't worry, they'll come up with something new.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the thought process of creating more things like that.
Sure.
If they could turn that into positive, imagine how far advanced we would be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Unfortunately, and this is the real world. There are bad people that don't want us on this planet simply because this is where we grew up.
Telling people that and they don't believe me. No, you're absolutely right. And the seriousness of it is we need to be trained to deal with this stuff. We need to be aware of it, because just throwing out garbage and touching stuff that had fentanyl on it is enough that could kill you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it all comes down to, on a professional level, training, tactics, techniques, and tools. And notice I said it in that order: training, tactics, techniques, and tools. Too many times, people in the restoration industry get wrapped up in the newest sprayer, the newest this gadget and everything. And that's not where it's at. You've got to have a protocol.
Yes.
You want to be able to contain, control, neutralize, and remove that contaminant, and ask yourself, what are we cleaning and why?
Why was the word I was going for, because you can buy the tools. Why'd you buy that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go take care of this. Are you trained to? Well, we'll figure it out. You can't figure this out. This is too dangerous.
This is the one part of the industry, whether it's mold or whether it's some of the dangerous contaminants I work with. Here's the word you do not want to hear: oops.
Yeah. Yeah, we joked about that when I was on the police department with the guys from the bomb squad, and they used to have sayings in the back of their shirts: if you see me running, try to keep up. You don't want that.
We talk about, training, tactics, techniques, and tools, and we talk about our end. But, I think one of the things that we always need to stay focused on: no one calls you, no one calls me because they're having a good day.
Yeah.
And so what we also need to keep in mind, but our prime directive of safety, but that client, that has potentially dangerous mold and contaminants in their house, or in my end, that client that may have lost a loved one. Okay. If we handle these people with care, compassion, and concern, and base all of this on science, and conduct ourselves with honor and integrity, there's no way you cannot succeed.
Agreed. Have you ever come across any radioactive situations?
No, I have not.
It's a very strange feeling because I've come across the scenes that would qualify as a crime scene cleanup and stuff like that from my previous life. And I came across one situation with radiation.
Really?
And there's a definite change in the way that you feel because it's such an unknown to the general public. And I'm considering myself general public in this because I am not trained in that level of a response. With the police department, we responded to a burglar alarm. As we went into the building, we hit a door that said, "Do not go beyond this point, radiation." The guys that I was with, they started backing out, had me there as a supervisor. Turned out it was a storage place for ground sensing equipment.
Okay.
And they use radiation to do that. Well, it was safe, very small chips, and they have to mark the building. But it was an extremely unsettling feeling being there and knowing what to do. We backed out.
Right.
Because we're not trained in that type of response.
Right. And you know what? That's one thing that, like, especially new remediators, whether it is mold or whether it is on the forensic end and stuff, need to realize their limitations and need to know when to pull back and call and ask for some expert consultation and help.
That's something that actually needs to be taught because people don't realize it. People are, in general, pleasers. They want to have the answer. If they don't have it, they try to make it up. And in our line of work, that can be very, very dangerous.
Absolutely. Remember the Clint Eastwood movie, Magnum Force?
Yes.
The line he used in that, man's got to know his limitations.
It's absolutely correct.
Absolutely correct.
I've seen it from the emergency services side. You've seen it. You were in the military. People do things that, beer muscles, if you want to call it, here, hold my beer, I'm going in, that's where you get hurt. And if you're doing a job and you need to climb up and reach something, you don't have a ladder, you don't stack 4 chairs on top of each other and try to climb it. But people do. And then you laugh about it afterwards. And could you believe what this guy did? Could have seriously gotten hurt. The same problem with these microbes and chemistries and all the biohazards we come in contact with, not wearing the right equipment is the same thing as standing on 4 chairs piled high.
Absolutely. Have people died cleaning up after fentanyl? Yes, they have.
Yes.
Okay. And so we need to be aware of that.
Yeah. And it's not just coming in contact with a lab. Our remediators, our assessors, you're going into homes, into businesses that it's an unknown. You don't know what's there. Should you be wearing gloves? Absolutely. PPE? Yes, you really need it, even in a normal looking environment, because what is normal? You never
If it was
know.
normal, you wouldn't be there.
Exactly. They've called for a reason.
We're biological SWAT teams. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't looked at it like that, but yeah, I guess it would fit. But that's this industry. And as we look around, there's people all over here from all over the country. Actually, there's a lot of people here from Australia and the UK. They come to this show because they get to see people in the industry, their peers, how they work, how they do things, the training available. They meet people like you with the technology and the upper level training that you do, that even with our most advanced training, we don't cover crime scene and cleanup. So this is the place to be in a show like this.
I love being around my peers and colleagues here because I pick up things left and right.
Yeah. It's, a good experience. And I'm glad you were here and had time to talk.
Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks,
I
Lance.
told Lori I'd really like to get into one of your classes one day.
Oh, we'd love to have you.
I think it would be of a big interest and value for me.
Anytime. The
All right.
door's open.
We'll hold you to that.
Okay.
All righty. Take care. Thank you.
When you start on the pathway toward professional success, you have to know what the goal is and how to get there. Normie exists to help in that process. It's not just about taking a class to get a license, but also about starting on a pathway to professional success. Whether you want to work for yourself or be the best qualified employee on the team, this path will take you there and help you succeed. Pick a track, click on the class, and get your journey started. Normie is here to support you all the way to become the Normie Pro professional you want to be.
I want to welcome my next two guests, Doug Hoffman from Normie and Larry Cooper from Restoration Journeys. Now, there's a special synergy between the two of them, so this interview is going to be a little different. Normally, I would be asking questions and doing a Q&A, but I am just going to tee this up for the two of them because they seem to have conversations that just go in all kinds of directions, so it's really good to watch. So the main focus here is Restoration Journeys is having a special event coming up in April. I'll let them talk about the dates and the timing on that. But we're also having a training associated with Normie at the same time. So this will be a learning event on the beach in Mexico. I'll leave it at that. And Doug, I'm going to turn this over to you and let you and Larry have a conversation.
Great. Thanks, Lance. Yeah, I was going to grab the mic because I got all kinds of questions. But I want to set this up if I can. I'm very excited to announce, for those of you who don't know, Normie has a 20-year anniversary. We were actually founded in 2004, which means 2024 is our 20th birthday or 20th anniversary, however you want to look at it. And I'm so excited about this. I was telling somebody the other day that when you've gone through the financial crisis of 2008 and 9 and the pandemic of 2020 and you're still surviving, I think that's a pretty good sign. Maybe you got something important to say. And we've just been so fortunate to be able to build a really strong trade association across the years, teaching and filling, I think, in some ways a void for some of the training that's out there. Many of you know Normie, the National Organization of Remediators and Microbial Inspectors, is the only trade association right now that's approved for all of the states that require licensing. And that's huge. We do training on both sides of the industry for assessment and remediation. And we do a lot of certification on indoor air quality, which, as we know, since 2020 has become